do I so short? Oh, yeah. Ruth, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
All right. This announcement is for on-site participants, and I will repeat the message in English. Buenos días. Si se ha reunido a la reunión de hoy en la sala de juntas de SANDAG y necesita interpretación al español, por favor, diríjase a la recepción del piso 8 y solicite un receptor. Simplemente prende el receptor, coloque el audífono junto a su oído y la interpretación comenzará automáticamente. If you're joining us today in the SANDAG boardroom and need interpretation into Spanish, please check out a receiver from the receptionist on the 8th floor. Simply hold the earpiece to your ear and the interpreter will come on automatically. And the following announcement is for remote participants. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, que es el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular o tableta, presione los puntos suspensivos, luego Interpretation y luego el idioma. To use the interpreting feature on Zoom, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are located and click on the interpretation icon, the world. Then select your language. If you're joining using the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone or tablet, please press the ellipses, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting with a tribal acknowledgement. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Iguiño, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. With that, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag. All right, Tessa, could you please call roll?
Good morning. For the city of Carlsbad, Councilmember Burkholder is absent. For the city of Chula Vista, Councilmember Cardenas is absent. City of Coronado, Councilmember Duncan.
Present.
County of San Diego, Chairwoman Vargas. The second seat for the County of San Diego is absent. City of Del Mar, Councilmember Gasterland.
Gasterland for Del Mar here.
The city of El Cajon is absent. City of Encinitas, Mayor Kranz.
Here.
City of Escondido, Mayor White.
Present.
City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember Fisher.
Fisher present.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Shu.
Shu here.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Vasquez.
Here.
City of National City, Vice Mayor Molina.
National City present.
City of Oceanside, Deputy Mayor Keim. City of Poway, Mayor Vaz. City of San Diego, Mayor Campillo. I'm sorry, Councilmember Campillo.
Here.
City of San Diego, Vice Chair Elo Rivera.
Present.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Here.
City of Santee, Mayor Minto.
Here.
City of Solana Beach, Second Vice Chair Hebner.
Here.
City of Vista, Councilmember Melendez is absent. And I would like to note that Councilmember Burkholder with the city of Carlsbad is present. Caltrans, Executive Director Dayarda. MTS is absent. North County Transit District, Councilmember Edson.
Present.
Imperial County Supervisor Escobar.
Good morning.
USCOD Director Keck. Port of San Diego is absent. San Diego County Water Authority, Mel Katz.
Here.
San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Gil Cabrera.
Here.
Mexico is absent. And the Tribal Chairman's Association, Chairwoman Pinto.
Present.
And that concludes the roll call and confirms a quorum.
Thank you very much. Before I get started, I just want to share with all of you that on item 9 of the agenda, I have also asked Pamela Derby, that's the manager and executive recruiter with CPS HR, to be here with us when we present the item, and we didn't add it to the agenda. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that she will be with the vice chair and audit, so that you all can ask questions when that time comes. We're going to go ahead and begin with the first item on the agenda, which is non-agenda public comments. And we're going to do 1 minute for public comments. Go ahead, Tessa.
Thank you. I have 2 public members here present. Alan C., who will be followed by Michael Brando. Alan, please go ahead.
Good morning, board. 1 minute is not enough time according to the Brown Act to allow us to speak. You're actually censoring the public by doing this. Members here, do something about this, because the public should be allowed to speak adequate time. When you do it to the consent item, 1 minute for all the consent, that is also wrong. Please stop the mileage tax. We are suffering here. 2 years of COVID shutdown, our business is suffering. And yet we waste our money on that bus program, Palomar exit, all the way to downtown. The buses have to take the emergency lane during rush hour. You're putting climate against the people's safety. 18-wheelers on the 805, it's a hazard. Stop that bus on shoulder program now. Do your jobs, protect the public. I yield back.
Our next speaker is Michael Brando, and I would like to announce for those public speakers that have their hand raised virtually, our limit in the first non-agenda item, number 1 on the agenda, is 5 public commenters. So the following 3, Alex Wong, phone number 899, and Catherine Rhodes, you will be called upon. The remainder, please note that we'll take your public comments at the end of the meeting. Mr. Brando, please go ahead.
I use the name Michael. Trust. People don't trust you. People don't trust any of these organizations anymore. I urge you to wake up. Just this week, people became more aware of private text between Sean Elo Rivera and Nathan Fletcher being real giddy with each other. Private texts that came available through a Freedom of Information Act request. He calls people that come to these meetings public comment all-stars. They're the public comment all-stars. The amount of derision and ridicule in these texts is astronomical. Now people are going to become aware of this organization and what you're doing here. More people are going to show up. See, we're entering in a new age of awakening where people are becoming aware of how to create wonderful things from the inside out. And all this deception and trying to censor people with 1 minute, Nora, 1 minute, is going away. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is virtual Alex Wong. Please go ahead.
Don't just take my word on increasing frequency. Last April, Houston transit planner Christoph Spieler wrote to Midcoast Trolley and praised it for linking 2 of San Diego's densest job centers. But to him, one of the biggest flaws was that the service doesn't quite live up to the infrastructure. A train every 15 minutes can be frustrating for the kinds of short trips that this line could serve and make the service less competitive with driving. Here's a quote from Circulate San Diego's report, Making the Most of the Midcoast Trolley. Blue line frequencies along the Midcoast should be improved to every 7.5 minutes during peak periods. The SANDAG 2021 regional plan includes goals to achieve this frequency by 2035. That timeline should be moved up as soon as possible. The report also noted that SANDAG's 2021 regional plan includes commitments to improve frequencies on many routes and 4 new rapid bus routes through the University Community Plan area by 2045. However, resources for these routes are threatened by SANDAG's funding shortfalls. SANDAG should prioritize bus rapid transit and transit frequency improvements when managing their limited resources. This concludes my comment.
I would also like to note for the record that Councilmember Chavez for MTS and Supervisor Anderson are both now present. Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, who will be followed by the final speaker. Our next speaker will be phone number 899, who will be followed by the final speaker, Catherine Rhodes.
Hi, Mary Davis. Good morning. First, respectfully, 1 minute is not enough time for public comment. Doing that is Potemkin government. Second, bring in an industrial psychologist. Your board-weighted majority seems to be out of touch with the feelings of most average San Diegans. 3, for all directors, please consult with your offices of emergency management to learn the importance of redundancy for preparedness and structural systems. Any of you advocating for building electrification have blinders on to the great risk of channeling us down the path of single source energy. 4, please start taking a regional approach to all infrastructure, especially dams. Put pressure on the city of San Diego to get its priorities in order and take steps to replace the old Lake Hodges Dam before any steps are taken to begin a new city hall. Lastly, urge Sweetwater Authority to reopen Loveland Reservoir to honor its easement and promise and to keep a minimum 30% water level at all times. To not do so affects public safety as well as increase.
Thank you. Your time has expired. I would like to also note before our final speaker that Councilmember Melendez with the City of Vista is now present. And Catherine Rhodes, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes, and on Monday,
I apologize. Go ahead.
hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. On Monday, the City of San Diego put up 6 blocks of surplus land that could be used for housing. So we only have 55 days left. And so what I'm asking is either the SANDAG Regional Equitable Housing Subcommittee or the County of San Diego take this land and actually develop it for public housing, or maybe even 100% public housing. And the city actually is including the 101 Ash Street. So they don't actually ever needed that building. They're just putting it up for sale for housing. That will be very expensive for everybody. And so right now we only have 55 days. Right now there's a 25% minimum affordable housing. And if it goes past 55 days, and it'll be like Midway Rising where we will get 0 to 15% affordable housing. So if nobody puts in their bids, please ask all your affordable housing developers, everybody that you know, to put in a bid in the next 55 days or we'll be out of luck. Thank you.
And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda, well, actually do we have any non-agenda member comments at this time? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to item number 2, which is our agency updates. To help streamline the meetings, I've combined the CEO report and the chair report moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over first to Hassan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good morning to all of you. First, I have to start off by sharing the best part of the week yesterday. SANDAG hosted Bring Your Child to Work Day. I want to thank Dr. Cindy Burke and all the people who helped there for organizing such a successful event. Having 50 kids here reminded me of a quote by Christopher Reeve. I quote, "A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to preserve and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles." That is who we have to be here at SANDAG. Not for those of us in this room today, then for all of those kids that will be leading this region in the future. These kids, we can learn a lot from these kids, but they were CEOs and managers and directors for a few minutes during lunch. They love their pizza. And again, I want to thank Cindy and the team who organized that. We often confront obstacles in our work, funding, permitting, different options about what to do. But in the end, we always put through, we find funding, we push the boundaries, we find way to get things done. And this week was no exception. On Monday, the governor announced a $100 million grant to SANDAG and our partner NCTD for replacing an old 107-year-old bridge, for double tracking, and finally putting a platform in Del Mar Playground. This is what your agency does: bring resources, build, and replace old infrastructure. I want to congratulate our partners in CTD and all of you who helped make this a reality. This is very significant, as we have a pending application at the federal government's Department of Transportation. In June, we would learn if we get this funding, about 135 million, the replacement, the double tracking, and the platform will be fully funded, and shovels will be hitting the ground. This project is shovel ready. And again, it's a testament to the work of this team here at this agency, and I'm very grateful for them. And San Diego should be grateful. This is one of the largest grants the state gave. I want to thank the leadership for also calling on behalf of the agency to make sure this took place. I'm very proud to have received this grant to add to many hundreds of millions of dollars that we did. Last week, I traveled with board leadership to Washington, D.C. Chairwoman Vargas, Vice President Elio Rivera, Second Vice President Mayor Lisa Hebner. We met with several agencies, including Custom Protection, GSA, General Service Administration. We were at the White House. I truly want to thank the leadership, because they were there advocating on our behalf to move this amazing project. And this week, Monday, we're traveling back with our partners, Gustavo Dilardo from Caltrans and the teams. We were invited back to present the project to several federal agencies: GSA, CPP, OMB, Federal Highways, Build America Bureau. This is a critical meeting we'll be traveling for. And finally, on OTI 2, we did receive the draft memorandum of agreement that I am ready to sign on your behalf, and hopefully the federal government will sign to start the 30% design. I want to thank my partner, Gustavo Dilardo, and his team, because our partnership is getting us to the finish line. And with that, I want to pass it to the chairwoman, the first and second vice chair, if they want to say anything about the trip to DC before I continue.
I'll wait for my turn.
Sure. On the Central Mobility Hub, in June, you will be hearing some options how to get to the airport. This work is progressing nicely, and we would hope to start the environmental work very shortly. In the blue and purple line, we're going to start the planning work, and you will be hearing about that too. Last Friday, we co-hosted digital equity workshop with the state. And this coming Thursday, May 4th, we will kick off Bike Month by celebrating the groundbreaking of a border to Bayshore Bikeway. Since in 2015, we have been working on this almost 7-mile route to connect Imperial Beach to San Isidro community and the busiest international land border crossing in the world. These are just some of the ways that we continue to work on all your behalf. I wanted to make sure you're aware of that something I learned about recently. Some issues that we have been having with the non-payment request on the State Route 125. Based on what we know right now, it looks like the timing of when certain reports were being submitted may have affected our ability to properly process or collect those payments during certain time periods. We have fixed the problem to ensure it doesn't happen again and are now investigating to see what this impact may have been. And I will be reporting to you when I know more about this. I want to thank Lucinda, the new director at the toll, who came here for a lot of reasons, but one of them is to make sure these mistakes don't happen again. And finally, I have to congratulate our Deputy CEO, Colleen Clemenson. There she is, the lady in red. The UC San Diego Alumni Association had elected Colleen as their 2023 Outstanding Alumni of the Year, their highest and most prestigious award. I am really proud of Colleen. I was doing a taping for Colleen for this event, and I can tell you there weren't enough words to express how proud I am that somebody of this level receives such a prestigious award. I encourage you to find the time to participate with Colleen. Finally, I will be traveling this afternoon to UC Riverside, where I'll be spending the afternoon and tomorrow all day for a group called California 100 Commission. I represent SANDAG among other individuals from outside state to talk about ways to face the challenges that California face. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Hassan. I just wanted to also share a couple of items with all of you. First, I wanted to say that on Monday, I was very pleased to host the mayors from Brazil, Uruguay, Panama, Paraguay, and Mexico as they kicked off their tour of the San Diego region. It's a great opportunity for us to really highlight the great work that SANDAG does. And it was a really great opportunity for us to partner with the Institute of the Americas on this visit and not only share what we're doing, but also learn from them as well. In terms of the process improvements, I think I shared with all of you that we're going to be doing quarterly reports and so on under item number 7. That item specifically is a result of the last audit responses plan that the board approved, and it's going to have regular reports that come to the board going forward. And I want to thank all the staff for all the work that they've been doing on this and pulling it together. We are also going to continue to implement the new internal ERP or software system that is going to make huge improvements on how we do contracts, payroll, finance, content management, and more. And then staff is also working hard to complete the transfer of the agenda materials and other historical documents to the SANDAG website as well. This is an important effort that we're going to continue to make sure that we move forward, but I want to make sure that you all are kept abreast of this. I think Hassan mentioned our DC trip, which I believe was very, very successful. I think we divided and conquered, right? We all did a lot of work together there, and Senator Padilla, U.S. Senator Padilla was excited to hear about the work that we were doing and understands how important this is for the region as a whole. We also discussed major community infrastructure projects, specifically, obviously, the Otamis East Port of Entry and other dollars for the region, and met with the White House and a lot of other meetings that I think will be very fruitful and productive. I also want to remind everyone that I think I had mentioned this at the last meeting, and there was a survey that was sent out to everyone regarding the California Department of Housing and Community Development to collect feedback for the next RHNA cycle. So if you haven't had a chance to provide your feedback, we still have some time until May 5th. That's important. And then I want to, again, congratulate the team this week on the $100 million grant award to the Lausanne corridor. That's really powerful and important. I think it's a huge investment for our region. And the San Diego Double Track project continues to be a priority, and it's going to be able to bring safety and reliability to the entire Lausanne corridor. So we're working with NCTD to try to get the matching funds from the federal government to fully fund construction of this project. But last but not least, Hassan also mentioned that we're going to be doing the Border to Bayshore Bikeway. We have SANDAG Bike Anywhere Day, which is going to be on May 18th. There's going to be about 100 pit stops lined up throughout the region, with at least one pit stop in every city this year. So if you haven't already put it on your calendar, put it on your calendar. Make sure you join, you participate. And there are details in the front in case you want to have more information or share it with your communities as well. With that, we also have a group of bike ride next Tuesday in Encinitas if anybody wants to join. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to public comments, and then I'll bring back to member comments. I know we have some folks in the queue. Tessa?
We have 3 virtual commenters on this item. Blair Beekman, who will be followed by Catherine Rhodes. Blair, please go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks very much for this item. Learning that so many countries from Latin America were in San Diego this past week. It sounds like a really good week. Wow, thank you. I'm a bit concerned about, I've heard a lot of San Diego politicians say the term "we divide and conquer" to accomplish their goals. I think that wording is I don't think it can last very long, guys. It's a bit, be careful with that wording. I wanted to comment again on the, I don't know, the CEO's report. As usual, he mentioned, the importance. It's hard to get money together for projects. So congratulations on the bridge project in the Del Mar area. Again, my words, really consider the concepts of ride sharing and that fulfilling union contracts for bus drivers, working that out. So there's buses always going and around. That's a really good steps, I think, towards the future, and really gets the feeling that we're accomplishing things and can help with the future subway issues and transit center. Thank you.
Thank you. Your time expired. Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, who will be followed by the final speaker, phone number 731. Catherine, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. The new six blocks for the Civic Corps for surplus property that includes City Hall and 101 Ash Street. There's no requirement for a central mobility hub. Thank goodness. And then also last week with your central mobility hub and connection comprehensive multimodal corridor plan, they actually talked about the Port Transit Center. They call it PTC. And so I'm super supportive. I'm so happy that they're doing this. The reason why is because if you put it at the port, then you can use the FAA passenger facility charge for the airport connectivity project. And what you need to do is you need to lease the land between the airport and the Los Angeles corridor. And then also one of the requirements to use this FAA money that you haven't actually ever analyzed yet that you can use as a new thing starting in 2010 is that it has to be between the airport and the Los Angeles corridor. So that would be a perfect location. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker will be phone number 731. Please go ahead.
It's truth, and you're right, Sean. I am a speaking all-star and proud of it. Hassan, you're so funny. With the totalitarian measures you're bringing in, the children aren't going to have a future. This is what you've already planned for the children with the 2021 regional plan. Quote, fundamental transformations in the economic, social, technological, and political fabric of life in California, and in government regulating economic activities and personal behaviors, end quote. The only thing you got right, Hassan, was that kids, us meddling kids specifically, love pizza. It is Pizza Friday. And Nora, Sean, Lisa, and Hassan, your trip to DC in order to secure more debt dollars. Those plane rides definitely emit more GHGs than cars. We need to reduce your miles traveled. In fact, we need to reduce and divide and conquer the level of power you're all trying to reign over us. Here's a theme of Hassan and SANDAG overall.
And that concludes the public commenters.
Thank you very much. All right, now our next item is our consent agenda. And so,
Excuse me, Chair.
I'm sorry, I apologize. So the 3 speakers that I have is council member, the music. Totally. I should be used to it by now because these are all the folks that come to the County of San Diego. They're all my friends. So I'm happy that they're here now. Councilmember Gasterland, please. I apologize for that.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the laugh. I want to say thank you for the $100 million for the bridge in Del Mar. It's an old railroad bridge. I invite people to come take a look. It's historic. I don't know if its look and feel will be preserved, but that with the fairground stop is really great. What I want to point out is that we're spending an awful lot of money digging holes in Del Mar. The bridge is not holes. That's a good thing. But we have $300 million that is underway for getting that tunnel to construction ready. And it's been very clear why a tunnel is important rather than trying to attempt to relocate the tracks down I-5. I finally understand, and now I'm able to help my constituents understand. The main reason is that we don't get the speed up on the low sand corridor through Del Mar and through that area if we take a turn at the fairgrounds and go to the I-5. So this tunnel is really important, $300 million. Now we have $100 million for the crossing. We have $65 million for reinforcing the bluff with pilings and seawalls. And I want to comment on that in just a moment. And we have $15 million that are going to go into an underpass pedestrian crossing, most likely at 7th Street. That's really important because we have 3 million visitors per year, according to our lifeguards counts and according to our parking counts, to the Del Mar Bluffs and beaches. So this is not just a Del Mar investment. This is an investment for the entire region, and it's going to get bigger. It's going to be $4 billion for that tunnel, and that's really important. So the one thing I want to end with is we've just been through a natural experiment. In science, it wouldn't be an experiment because it's an N of 1. Del Mar is unique, and the trains on the bluffs there are rather unique, but you take a walk on the beach, you take a walk on the bluff top trails, and what you see is sloughing from the top coming down. South of Anderson Canyon, the drainage ditch is practically full from the natural bluff that is to the east of it at Carmel Valley Road and Del Mar and Camino Del Mar. So it's happening right now. And what I wonder, so I would pose this to our engineers via our leadership, is ought we perhaps step back and ask right now, should we put more pilings in at the top rather than all the seawalls down below? You know, the toe of the Del Mar Bluffs is pure solid rock. They're not eroding from below at the moment. At the moment, they're eroding from above, and those pilings would make more difference. Then my final question is the contract for doing the $65 million seawalls and pilings an open bid, or is it an on-call contractor? Thank you.
I'm gonna, if you want me to answer, or we can get back to the council member later.
Yeah. Do you mind?
Okay.
And then what we'll do is, why don't we, if you also send her an email, then we can share with the rest of the
Sharon
group.
Humphrey, our capital program director, will make sure.
Because I think they're very specific questions. So we will make sure that the rest of the board also gets a copy of them so that everybody has the answers.
Just in general, this board of directors need to know, we made Lausanne a top priority for the agency. And many of you come here and say we're only focusing on the city or this side of the region. Every part of the region is as important as the other. So far, for the last 3.5 years, and Councilmember Castron was the first meeting I had within this with Blakespeare. So far, we have invested over $500 million and will continue to invest. But I also want to inform you that the environmental clearance and design for the tunnel, we started into the negotiation with the consultant picked to start the work. This is no joke. There's no going back. The $100 million that NCTD and SANDAG got in partnership, and hopefully with the federal grant, we're going to replace this bridge and double track it. As I said before, our goal is to make sure the part of the Lausanne corridor in San Diego is working for San Diegans and for the rest of the state. This trip from San Diego to LA that takes 3.5 hours shouldn't take more than 2 hours. And so that's toward our goal, and we'll answer your specific questions in an email.
Thank you. Mayor Jones?
Thank you so much, Chair. Our director had discussed the central mobility hub and that we would be starting the environmental shortly. we haven't identified an actual final place for that. So I'm wondering when we will have those options or, kind of what we're looking at. And then also the metrics that show that it will reduce greenhouse gases and all the things that we want it to reduce. I wonder when we'll have that. And then also if the surplus land in downtown San Diego, is that a considered site? Is that a possibility? Just wondering about that. So when would we have?
So Mayor Jones, I misspoke or you misunderstood me. We're going to start the environmental in the connection to the airport, not the central mobility hub. And in June, you're going to see the options available to get to the airport. Is it from Santa Fe to the airport? Is it through the port property to the airport? And that's what you're going to see. And so the environmental is not to the central mobility hub. We still do not have a final. We started talking about Navwar at one point. We're talking with the Civic Center here, and the City Council just last Monday took an action to consider mobility options, but we are not ready to start and pick. As to your point, absolutely, before you pick an alternative, you'll have all the analysis, whether it's greenhouse gas emissions, trips, emissions in general, you will have that available to you. But in June, that's your chance to look at the alternatives to get to the airport, to get rail to the airport.
So the connection to the airport is separate completely from the central mobility hub.
Correct.
Okay.
It's two projects, one component you're going to see next June.
Okay, and then one more thing. The status of the RUC, the road user charge, the 2021 plan. I know that we are analyzing that now. I'm just curious as to when that will come back to the board of directors for a final vote to send that off to CARB for their approval.
Yeah. Right now, as I reported before, and the chair publicly made a statement, the RAC is coming out of the 2021 regional transportation plan. To do that, we needed to do supplemental environmental impact report, which we are doing. And very shortly, we're talking weeks, the board is going to see a 2021 amended regional transportation plan without the road user charge to be submitted to the California Air Resources Board for approval. I'm going to repeat it. The 2021 regional transportation plan that's going to be in front of you will not have the RAC part of it.
Okay, so then I guess my follow-up question to that would be, so being that there will be a hole in funding, essentially, removing that road user charge, what will be the new source of funding for that hole?
Today in the workshop, you're going to start the process of looking at options to fund the plan. Like we said before, the 2021-25 regional transportation plan alternatives process is going to start. Today, you're going to hear the first position, but how to pay for the plan is a major source of the plan that you're going to have to make a decision about. Right now, the 2021 regional transportation plan is removing the RAC and not doing much more major changes to the financial. That's agreed to, that the 2025 update will have that.
Well, I guess my point to that would be then, if we have a plan that has no funding for it in the 21 plan, being that we're not going to be updating, now we're looking at the 25 update.
It has funding, Mayor. And I think we don't want to spend too much time here. The plan will be fully funded. We can submit a plan to ARB unless it's funded. Go ahead, Colleen.
Right, if I may, Chairwoman and Mayor Jones, thank you for that question. So as Hassan mentioned, the draft amended plan will be brought to the board in June. We have taken your specific direction that you put in the scope of work for us on how to do that amendment. And that includes a funding strategy. So we will share that with you as well as how the plan does in terms of meeting greenhouse gases. So again, we'll have that for you in June. And we included all of the funding assumptions that were included in that scope of work that you all approved in asking us to go forward with this amendment. So I think we've got a good proposal, and I think we have something that will be acceptable to submit to CARB. So we will look forward to bringing that to you in June.
Okay, just.
So let me ask you a question. Would it be appropriate then, so that, because I feel like the question keeps coming up, right? And we've already, and I think it's a good question to ask. So if maybe you can prepare a memo that can update everyone, even though we've said it and we've had conversations, some of the board members are new. So I think in fairness to them, let's create a memo from the team specifically on this item with a timeline. Where will people be able to give, feedback, opportunities, where we're at, what the next steps are. And that way we can all have that document. And if the board would like to, have a conversation before the June discussion that had already been part of that timeline, happy to, have that discussion of whether or not we all want to have it as a board or not. But I feel like instead of, going back and forth, and because I think some folks may have the information, others may not. And as we're trying to move forward, what I don't want to do is we're going to have a conversation about the regional plan for the next plan. And I don't think we should be mixing them together. One is one. And I was gonna say one is one and one is the other one. I don't know, that doesn't make sense. ESL, sorry. So yes, so for me, I think it's important that we do two, and we're very clear about the one that we're going to talk about today, and that way it just makes it easy for everybody. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's why
Perfect.
I had asked previously if we could just get a regular update. So
Yeah.
if it's in writing, it's actually even better, just so
Yeah,
we
I
all know
think
where it's
so.
at.
Yeah. And then if there's any specific questions that you have that you want, or anybody of the board members have that you want to make sure are addressed on that item, please feel free to reach out to me and the team, and we'll make sure that they're part of it, so that we can, have all that. And then there's always room for discussion. That's part of what we're here for. I just want to make sure everybody has the same information and we're all keeping on track. Is there anything else, Mayor?
No, thank you, Chair Vargas. Appreciate
Perfect.
it.
All right, Councilmember Jewel.
Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to thank my SANDAG colleagues and SANDAG staff for making the Low Sand Corridor a priority. As Chair Vargas and Hassan and Mayor Gaster, or Council Member Gasterlin noted, the San Dieguito Bridge Replacement Grant Award is a big deal. And CTD and SANDAG were awarded a $100 million grant from the state of California Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program to advance phase 2 of the San Dieguito Bridge Replacement Double Track and Special Events Platform Project. That's a big word, long sentence. Anyway, replacement of the San Dieguito River Railway Bridge, which is approaching the end of its useful life, will ensure the corridor's resilience to the impacts of rising sea levels. Double tracking through the area and construction of the special events platform at the Del Mar Fairgrounds will add capacity to support increased intercity rail frequencies and provide a one-seat ride to popular attractions such as the San Diego County Fair, concerts, and other events that attract visitors throughout the San Diego and Southern California region. So thank you so much. The application for this funding was also supported by Congressman Levin, Senate President Pro Tem Atkins, Senator Blake Spear, Assembly Member Tasha Borner. And I think that it's important to acknowledge all of them and be grateful for their contribution to helping make this happen too. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Krantz.
Yes, thanks. And to add to what Board Chair, NCT Board Chair Edson said, I wanted to point out that the work that has gone into preparing that project for the bridge at the Del Mar Fairgrounds began many years ago as a result of the San Dieguito Lagoon restoration project. There was some significant scouring of the trestle bridge that crosses that lagoon. And so NCTD went into action and has prepared this project. This is several years in the planning process, and to receive the funding NCTD led by Matt Tucker deserves a lot of kudos for advancing that. And I will also point out that the platform at the Del Mar Fairgrounds is the result of a member of the public beginning an advocacy for adding that feature to this bridge replacement project. So congratulations to everyone at NCTD and SANDAG for getting this.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Very, very brief. I just wanted to wish Member Shu happy birthday because he didn't want me to do that. And I promised him that we would embarrass him. Happy birthday, Jack.
You want me to sing las mañanitas for you? Good, good. Well, anyway, hopefully these reports are helpful to you. As I said, my goal is to make sure that we have as much accountability, transparency, and that you all have the information that you need. If there's anything that you want to make sure I address or that Hassan addresses before the meetings, just shoot us an email so that we are able to get you the information that you need and we're all on track because we want everybody to have the same information as we're moving forward to make the decisions. And so with that, our next item is our consent agenda. And so the items on the agenda are number 3 to 8, and there is a change on one of the items. I'm going to turn it over to Colleen.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I wanted to call out a specific change on item 5. And these are the attachments that reference the cost of the Mid-Coast Transit Project. And one of the numbers in there should have had a negative. So there's a loan amount that is shown for $500 million that it should be a negative instead of a positive. So the total cost of the Mid-Coast project is 2.1 billion. If you add the 500 million, that comes out to about 2.7. So we're just asking that should you approve this item today, that you approve it with that correction.
Okay. All right. So before I take a motion, what I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to public comment.
Thank you. I have 5 in-person commenters. Alan C. It will be speaking on both items 5 and 6, who will be followed by Mark, who will also be speaking on both items 5 and 6. Alan, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Just to clarify before we start the time, we're allowed 1 minute per item. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, concerning item 5. How many people took the bus this morning? 2 people. That's it. And yet you guys are pushing the bus, trying to tax us for our cars. 1/3 of the bus fare is handled by the riders, 2/3 are funded by the rest of us, and yet we don't take the bus. Transnet. Since 1987, we've been promised roads, not toll lanes, not buses, not more empty buses, roads. And yet you guys want to keep pushing more and more taxes on us. That Del Mar pilings doesn't do crap. You want to fix the Del Mar train track? Move it now. Look at your emails. I sent you a picture. 1940, the train went into ravine. It's been almost a century, and yet we still haven't moved the Del Mar track. Put it next to 5. It's the quickest way to do it because the tunnel will take too long. As I said before, we've been suffering here. When are you guys going to wake up and help the people? All right, if I get my time back for the next item, item 6. The housing. Our own San Diego City. I don't want to throw you off.
Your time has expired. It was 1 minute for the consent
told me it's 1
agenda
minute for items.
items.
Okay, but there you go.
Your
Here's
time
your
is
Brown
over.
Act, folks.
Thank you very much.
You're not helping the
Thank
people.
you.
out there.
And our next speaker will be Mark,
Go back, I guess.
who will be followed by Consuelo.
Mark. So they don't give us time here, so I want everyone to see this video on YouTube, this title. It's by Rosa Corey. First off, all of this, both the transportation plan and the housing plan is literally ultimately to bankrupt us and things that are really, truly not sustainable. For instance, instead of 3D printing houses on Fiesta Island, or someplace like that, it's great because it's isolated, and having a common area for bathroom and for food, they're subsidizing housing eternally from our taxes. It's a bad plan, and it makes the city money, which is a corporation, a subsidiary corporation. See this video to understand, otherwise you won't. You can see it from 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I am neither right or left, Republican or Democrat. They'll both agree to stop this. Rosa Corey was the district branch chief for the Department of Transportation. Her specialty is eminent domain valuation. She was a litigation support person and expert witness in land use.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker is Consuelo, who will be followed by Michael Brando. Consuelo?
Nora, you're very disrespectful to the people that show up. Accountability, transparency, what a joke. Nora, don't try and belittle us. We're not your friends. I didn't get a Christmas card from you. We show up because we are sincerely concerned. We're paying attention because the majority who are also concerned can't. They can't afford missing work due to being tax cattle slaves. We are the ones showing up, not getting paid, exposing you all, just like we did your brother, Nathan. We will continue to expose the fact that you all are not working for the people and their best interests. You all only work to fulfill an agenda, and you are all just puppets playing your roles for the real ones calling the shots. No conspiracies about it. They don't care about the people. Agenda 21 is their only priority.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Michael Brando, who will be followed by our first virtual speaker, phone number 731.
I use the name Michael in referencing number 6. I wonder how many people in this room are really familiar with UN Agenda 21, and how many of you really have studied a remarkable book called Behind the Green Mask by Rosa Corey. Mark mentioned that, Behind the Green Mask. I hear this word accountability and transparency used so often in these meetings. It's blasphemous. Blasphemous. Nora actually lied on April 4th at the Board of Supervisors meeting about being sick. It was just crazy. So if people lie about small, tiny things like that, this is true for me and for all of us. They're going to lie about bigger things. And that goes to the basic underlying foundation, the root assumption about all these agendas you're putting forward with. Most people don't even know you exist. They really don't. They don't. That's what's remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is phone number 731, who will be followed by our final 2 speakers, Blair Beekman and Paul Henkin. Please go ahead, phone number 731.
It's truth, and you're welcome for the laugh. Item 4, the Executive Committee supports AB 610, which allows unaccompanied children to ride public transit, putting them at risk of child trafficking. Item 5 is over $184 million in federal debt dollars for MTS and NTCD. Item 6, SANDAG is going to offer $16 million to developers, tribal nations, and local governments to catch whoever will sell out their community to implement the UN's Agenda 21 plan. And item 7, Hassan sold 1 JP Morgan Chase security for $57.6 million. Since July 2022, over $333,000 has been spent with SANDAG credit cards. And SANDAG wasted over $31,000 hobnobbing Mexico, federal and state officials, Governor Newsom's reps, Caso Familiar, frivolous fraudster Marco's Environmental Health Coalition, and traitorous UN Habitat reps. And Hassan's lunches have cost over $1,400. He likes eating at Le Parfait Paris, Saraf Restaurant, and the Westgate Hotel. I know where you've been eating, dude. And I'm Nora's friend. How about that? I actually said that first.
Thank you. Your time expired. Our next speaker will be Blair Beekman, who will be followed by the final speaker, Paul Henkin. Blair, please go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. How about the word sift and analyze for the future of divide and conquer? Just a friendly advice. For item 6 or item 5, transit capital improvement program things. It's going to have surveillance and data collection technology also involved with it. And I'm hoping that to remind that we do not have to, we can have good open public policies and practices and minimal use practices. We don't have to do a ton of technology to accomplish the same goals with this project. I hope that can be noted for the city of San Diego smart streetlight technology things. The police want a whole new system of tech when they already have a system in place that's pretty functional if we know how to talk about it honestly. So we have to learn to make those steps. And practice accountability. It's time we have to consider those sort of things. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker will be Paul Henkin. Please go ahead. You are self-muted.
All right. Okay, on the homeless thing, the city is surplusing all this land, and I hope you can use it to protect the homeless, because the city's residential tenant protection ordinance won't protect the residents or prevent homelessness at all. The ordinance excludes most lower income people from payments and restricted evictions. The well-to-do would mostly get any of the huge payments if evicted to put them at the front of the line for new housing. And the disadvantaged won't get any payments, huge payments certainly, if any. It's a bad ordinance, and with the city closing Golden Hole too, you need to prepare for more homeless. So please help them. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. I don't have any member comments on the queue, but this is the time where a board member can pull any of the items from consent agenda, or if you have any questions or comments. All right, seeing, oh, yes, sir.
Thank you. I just have a comment. I don't want to pull it from the agenda, but item number 6, the Housing Acceleration Program Cycle 2 Call for Projects. In reading it on the second page of it, something really stood out to me in regard to the city of Coronado specifically, and maybe some other members. But it states in the agenda that a number of the jurisdictions in the region are actively working with HCD to address comments and revisions to their housing elements, but are out of compliance or under review by the state. To ensure the most competitive local projects that further state and regional housing goals are funded through the Cycle 2 HAP, the Board of Directors is asked to waive Section 1.1 of the policy, which requires them to be in compliance to get those funds. So the reason I raise it is that there's an LA Times article that came out about Coronado entitled "Affordable Housing Laws Flagrant Flouter. Wealthy town of Coronado defies mocks state's growth plan process." Among other wealthy communities that have adopted various delay tactics, Coronado stands out for its long track record of openly flouting the law. And obviously this comes out of our housing allocation through SANDAG. The reality, as somewhat pointed out in this agenda item, is that approximately half of the cities in the entire state are not in compliance. And Coronado had previously been in compliance. So I'm perplexed how Coronado can be the worst violator of the new allocation when half the cities that have been allocated are in violation and we are always in compliance previously. But I just bring this up because obviously this will come before this body again in some form or maybe in a few different forms. And I just ask for your understanding of the actual facts, which are previously Coronado had 50 units allocated, now has 920. And as you may or may not know, Coronado only controls less than 25% of the land on Coronado. The other 75% is controlled by the federal government, the military, the state, and of course the port. So when you come across the bridge and you see the nice sports fields and say, well, why don't they just put the housing there? That land is controlled by the port and we are not able to put housing there. So Coronado was built out and is working with HCD and had them visit Coronado and said, where could we zone to be in compliance? And we have been unable to receive an answer. So we're literally in an impossibility. And yet you see the public pressure, which we could, and the newspaper pressure, which can result in political pressure. So I just ask for your understanding as this comes before the board in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gessler?
Yes, thank you. I have now 2 comments. I want to say something about what we just heard from Councilmember, are you Deputy Mayor or Councilmember? Councilmember Duncan. Yeah. So Del Mar remains not certified. You know, several cities in the San Diego region remain not certified. And there's a real consequence to not being certified. There's a 20-year-old law, the so-called Builder's Remedy Law. And we've got a submission in Del Mar for such a project. It's huge. And I think there's a real problem that we have. And the heart of the problem is reflected in our housing element. Our housing element programs have not changed a whit since we submitted after approval in April of 2021. And yet we've been asked for more and more and more information from HCD, and we keep giving them more and more and more information, and they're getting closer and closer to certifying. But because we're still not certified, we're in that terribly onerous gray zone where by right construction of huge projects can happen. So what you just said, Councilmember Duncan, is very important. And I think it's up to us all to make sure that we push regionally to get all our housing elements certified. We really need it. Now, that was my additional remark. My real remark, or what I wanted, my question is, on number 5, the Transit Capital Improvement Program, on page 8, we have the revised Mid-Coast LRT Corridor project. The budget is given in 000s. That means that something that looks like 2,708,685 is really $2.7 billion. And my question is, the project's already done. Is this on our agenda or on the consent calendar today for approval because there's this future pending payment of $537,484,000 in 2026-27? I guess, what are we approving here regarding this today?
Thank you, council member. So I want to be super clear. The project cost has not changed in Mid-Coast. This sheet is incorrect that it showed this dollar amount as a positive. It should be a negative against the project. So it's still a $2.1 billion project. Instead, that 500+ million was added. So it looks at first like it's 2.7. That's incorrect. So the correction that we want to make to this item is to show that as a minus and that it's still the $2.1 billion project. There's what you're approving today is simply kind of an adjustment in the timeline, but no change in dollar amounts whatsoever.
So the total cost then is 2.1 million or 2.7 million?
It's 2.1 billion.
Billion.
Yes.
Right.
Not
Okay.
2.7. So that's the correction we want to make. It remains exactly the same cost that we've reported. And it was an error in how this was presented in the report, unfortunately.
Okay, good. Yeah, I
But
think we
that
all take
correction-
very seriously
Yes.
our oversight of all of the dollars that are in this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, Mayor Jones?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I actually feel for cities like Coronado because when we had actually passed the arena allocation, there was a majority of us that did not approve that. And then it went to a weighted vote, and that's how you got that big number that you have. One thing I wanted to ask, maybe staff could answer this. When it talks about the objectives as accelerate infill housing, affirmatively further fair housing, and then the third one, and this is on page 59, the first paragraph. Then it also says reduce vehicle miles traveled. What does that mean exactly? Could we get more clarity on that?
I'm sorry.
How will those dollars be used for that?
Well, I mean, depending where you build housing, oftentimes if you build in areas that are transit accessible or walkable or you reduce vehicle mile travel. But we're required by law to look at these measures and determine whether any development increases or decreases vehicle mile travel.
Go ahead.
So the funding in this grant, excuse me. So Mayor Jones, the funding in this grant program is to help do two things. One, to help local jurisdictions do whatever additional planning that you need to do to get more affordable housing built. And then funds can also be used for capital investments. And that could be something that helps support part of a project, maybe some of the infrastructure to support a project. And that's what the criteria that's before you. And the team here, so Tueri and Stacy could answer any more specific questions you have. But the whole idea is to help all of you get important affordable housing built. And we know in San Marcos, you have some really great projects, and you've talked about the funding gap, that you've got something ready to go. It's fully entitled, but there's a gap in funding. We're really hopeful these funds could help you close that gap and actually have that affordable housing built.
So we've worked very hard on having a compliant housing element. And I guess my question would be, we've got about $12 million to actually build affordable housing that could possibly potentially close some of these gaps. Cities that haven't even submitted a plan, I'm not sure. I mean, that kind of brings into this whole thing of, well, now we want to create a waiver. If cities haven't even done this work to actually, submit their plan to HCD,
I think part of the discussion is, right, that the RHA and actually just informs the cities in that process, right?
So what's actually before you today is that there is a board policy known as Board Policy 33. And that board policy states that any discretionary funding that comes through SANDAG that could be passed through to local jurisdictions, that the locals must have a housing element. Given all of the challenges that we have heard about from local jurisdictions in trying to get your housing elements approved, we were bringing forward this proposal to waive that requirement so that all jurisdictions could be eligible. I think the point you're raising is that something you want to go forward with? Do you want to support that waiver to the board policy or not? Is that
your question is, if you don't have a housing element, I mean, if you don't have that plan yet, are you eligible? The answer is yes, you're still eligible for that money, correct?
So, so basically,
if you approve this change to the board, the waiver to the board policy today?
correct. And so I guess my point would be, and what I'm trying to get at is, if you do have an approved housing element, or you've actually submitted your housing element, do you get preferential treatment over the?
If you
I mean,
yeah.
we have 8% of our entire housing stock in San Marcos. I mean, we work very hard as deed restricted affordable. I want us to be able to be eligible for those funds and, get some sort of preference, because we have worked very hard at that. And I'm not saying that the other cities haven't. I'm just saying that, for cities like ours, where we had a large redevelopment agency that is no longer, I just want to make sure that I'm not doing anything that would, not make us a little more eligible with some sort of preference over the fact that we've worked so hard, I guess.
So what do you want to address that from?
Yes, if we could just provide a little clarity. So in the board policy, it does require that you have a compliant housing element. And we do have, I think it's 8 of our jurisdictions that are still working very diligently with HCD to get their housing elements in compliance. And so what this waiver would do is all cities are eligible to apply for the competitive call for projects, for funding, for planning, or capital dollars. But there is a certain number of points that would be deducted and it's a significant number of points that would be deducted that would make a city who doesn't have their housing element currently certified not as competitive. And so we were asking if the board would approve waiving that portion of Board Policy 33 to allow all cities to be competitive without punishing those who are still working with HCD on getting their housing elements approved. So
right. And that's what I was trying to get at. Like, I know cities like Oceanside, they've already submitted, they're trying to work through the questions that have been asked. So I feel like they are definitely trying to, and I just want to make sure though that even, sorry, council member, that, the fact that some of us have worked very hard and we actually are past that we have more points, I guess is how they're putting it. So, okay, well, with that answered, I think I would definitely support this.
We're actually trying to make it possible for all the cities, the 18 cities and the county to participate in this program. And the $43 million we got from the state and took many years of hard work to make sure regional entities have it. We're trying to add some additional funding. So this is a bigger problem for not going to force the cities, but those who want to participate can.
Thank you, Mayor Minto.
I just disregard.
All right. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I think we got to a place of understanding there. Just to be sure, my understanding is that this waiver is meant to be an olive branch to the cities who feel like they were negatively impacted by the weighted vote that established the RHNA numbers. San Diego is as aggressive as any city in the region, if not the state, on a housing element, on a housing front. So I understand why I kind of share that sentiment. However, one of, if not probably the second most contentious issue since I've joined the board has been the frustration with how the RENA numbers were established. I recognize this as being an olive branch. So with that in mind, I'm happy to move approval of the consent agenda. And hopefully this is a way of helping us move forward as a body, recognizing that we're trying to create some space for folks to find their way to meet the housing goals the region has.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember? Rosa?
Thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to go back to item 5. Not wanting to pull it, but just noting that there's about $100 million in spending budgeted for major corridor transit projects. And I think the voters are a little bit disappointed by that because they approved roads in the early 2000s, and those are Transnet major corridor funds. So I just wanted to make note that in North County, it would certainly help us, for example, at the I-578 corridor to increase lanes of travel. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
That motion passes with those members present.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item number 9 for the independent performance auditor recruitment. I want to invite the audit committee vice chair, Dave Drucker, to join us as he's here to present. But I also want to mention, and I also, let's see, Pam, you want to join us at the table? As I mentioned before, I've asked the representative from CPS HR here today, and I'd like to, I'm happy that she's going to be able to join us. I want to thank you in advance for all the work that you've done, both of you. So I'm going to turn it over to you so that we can have our presentation.
Thank you very much, Chair Vargas. The overview on this is the SANDAG Board of Directors at its meeting on March 24th, 2023, approved filling the independent performance auditor position with an employee, direct employee of SANDAG. SANDAG's existing IPA provided notice of a retirement effective October 2023. The board also approved utilizing the services of an executive search firm to conduct a nationwide recruitment. So the audit committee appointed an ad hoc IPA recruitment subcommittee composed of members Stuart Halpern and Bob Monson, along with SANDAG board member and National City Vice Mayor Luz Molina, and they participated in the selection activities. She participated in the selection activities as a non-voting advisor. The audit committee unanimously approved the subcommittee's recommendation to award a contract to CPS HR Consulting at its meeting on April 14th, 2023. Staff is now completing negotiations with the firm pending final approval of the board. Further, the audit committee recommends the board consider acting upon the input received during the selection process that the current 2-year contract term as stipulated in board policy number 39 be extended as all 4 executive search firms who submitted proposals independently suggested that a 2-year term could be a notable barrier to extracting top quality candidates. Just in terms of the process, the subcommittee recruitment subcommittee did interview 3 firms and unanimously chose CPS. And we're extremely happy to have CPS as this recruiting firm, as they will work very closely with the subcommittee to do this recruitment. To say the least, recruiting an IPA is extremely difficult. It is not it's not going out and getting a computer programmer or an engineer. It's a very limited field. So we need to have somebody that has a lot of experience in this and will work closely with our subcommittee. So with that, do you have anything you'd like to add, Pam?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chairs, Board. I can give you a quick overview of the process. And over the next couple of weeks, we would plan to reach out to all board members, the audit committee, and to senior staff to give you the opportunity to share with us what you're looking for in the next independent performance auditor. We would then be drafting a recruitment brochure. Our plan is to have this live May 15th to June 9th, approximately, for a significant recruitment period. During that time, of course, we would be reaching out to individuals around the country to ask them to apply for this position. Those that we have found that we feel are highly qualified, dependent on your suggestions during our conversations. During June and July, we would be facilitating selection processes, and it is our goal for the board to be interviewing finalists on July 28th and approving an employment agreement on September 8th.
I'm so sorry. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the work. I want to thank Chair Zito for this and all of you for all the work that you're doing. For me, it's extremely important that all of you are engaged in this process. Our fiduciary role at SANDAG is one of the most important roles that we have. And I think the independent auditor is one of the most important roles that we have at SANDAG. So I just think it's extremely important that you all make time. I know everybody's super busy, to make sure that when Pam calls and sets up an appointment, that you are able to provide feedback. And I'll make additional comments, but for now, let me go ahead to public comment, and then we'll have member comments, okay? Tessa?
Thank you. Our first public commenter is in person, Alan C., who will be followed by a virtual commenter, Paul Henkin. Alan, please go ahead.
I
definitely signed up for chat.
I don't want to throw the time.
Sir, this is item 9.
Yeah, item 9. Okay, yes. Concern of the audit. One area of audit we need to do in the city of San Diego. John, why would you sell Golden Plaza 550-bed shelter to homeless?
Sir, the item on the agenda
Yes,
is
ma'am. I'm talking
item
about
number
auditing
9
what's
about
going on.
audit regarding
Because you took away my
SANDAG.
time to
Please go
homeless.
ahead and
We got
discuss
1,000
that.
people living in the tents out there. They're not going to afford the affordable housing. They're on drugs, living in tents. They have no money. Open Golden Plaza up, relocate that shelter back to people,
all right,
and give them a job. I yield back.
Our next speaker is Alan C., who will be followed by another in-person speaker, Consuelo. Alan? I apologize. Consuelo?
A world government is now on the cusp of being into place. And you have arrived. America and many Western nations.
Just a
is flat
reminder,
out
the
broke.
item before you is independent performance audit recruitment.
it-
Feel
it's-
free to
it's all
discuss
together.
that item. If not, please go
got
ahead and have a seat.
Got it. Stop. They bankrupted us and are taking away our treasures as they work both sides of everything, our lives and our futures, the public and private. Ugh, you just threw me off. You threw me off. You're so rude, Nora, honestly. Seriously, stop it. That's what I'm saying. Seriously.
I'm a public person.
I'm a public person too. They bankrupted us and are taking away our treasures as they work both sides of everything, our lives and our futures, the public and private partnerships, our
Your time has expired. Our next speaker is a virtual speaker, Paul Henkin. Please go ahead.
Okay, one of the participants actually highlighted that fewer and fewer people trust you. This really illustrates the importance of having a truly independent auditor. one that I don't know if SANDAG should even be involved in selecting that person, sorry. And, you know, with all the stuff that they found, improper contracts, illegal payments, illegal expenditures, I mean, the list goes on and on. And I think if SANDAG is in the process of selecting an auditor, I don't think that's really credible. Thank you.
Our next speaker will be phone number 731, who will be followed by the final speaker on this item, Catherine Rhodes. And please go ahead, 731.
Hey, it's truth. How could the independent performance auditor be independent if SANDAG board member and National City Vice Mayor Luz participated in the selection? And not only that, but Nora, you're signing off on the audit committee's choice. How about letting the people choose the auditor? Now that would be independent. But that's okay, because I'm about to expose how this is not an independent consulting firm that's been chosen by the audit committee. They unanimously chose CPS HR Consulting based in Sacramento. Well, guess what? On February 28th, the County Board of Supervisors, where Nora also works, picked CPS to conduct the County Employment Engagement Survey. She's very familiar with them. I'd hardly call that choice independent. Of course, they didn't inform the public of the cost of that survey, despite approving it. Corruption, business as usual. And the cost for recruitment of an auditor alone will be $50,000. That's one expensive ad for biased corruption. Sorry, I caught you guys again. I have a habit of doing deep dives and finding out who's who.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our final speaker on this item is Catherine Rhodes. Catherine, please go ahead.
Hi, this is Catherine Rhodes. I just want to say I really actually like your existing audit staff, and I would recommend that instead of trying to hire somebody from outside, that you actually hire from within. They have, you know, a lot of institutional knowledge, and it takes years to understand how SANDAG works, and that will be, you know, true for the new board members also. So I actually think that you should just use your try to elevate somebody that you already have in your audit department. They do wonderful work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes the public comments.
Thank you. So again, I am grateful to the audit committee under Chair Zito's leadership, and to everyone for all of the thorough process, making sure that we did this well. And so I'm really looking forward to the next steps as we identify who the auditor is going to be. I also I'm glad that we are considering the recruitment materials in the next meeting, and I know this is a good time for us to highlight anything we like to plan to make sure that Ms. Derby knows about. And, you know, I am really looking forward to ensuring that the person who we hire is someone who has extensive knowledge in audits, system change, is able to make recommendations for our process. And, you know, I come as a former executive, I come from the world of just culture, right? To make sure that they are presenting information on how we become better and stronger and more transparent. And so I'm excited about that. And really someone who understands how to work with agencies that are very similar to SANDAG, not only locally, but not only in California, but across the country as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. First, I'm going to turn it over to Vice Mayor Luz Molina. And I want to say personally, thank you for agreeing to serve on this committee, ad hoc committee. I think it's obviously representation is extremely important. So we're very grateful for you and for your background and your experience, which I think is makes a big difference.
Thank you very much, Board Chair Vargas. Yes, it was a pleasure to meet and work with Mr. Halpern and Mr. Monson. Thank you very much, Ms. Pam Derby. I'm very happy to have you here. I know the interview process was virtual, and so it's wonderful to see you in person. Thank you for being here. My question, or I was hoping to get some input from you regarding one of the questions that did come up during the interview process, and it had to do with something Mr. Drucker acknowledged, was the need for perhaps revising the SANDAG policy regarding a 2-year appointment for this very crucial position. And I enjoyed your comments during the interview process, and I wonder if you could please share those today regarding the 2-year appointment and perhaps increasing that so that this recruitment is more long-term.
Yes, and as Mr. Drucker noted, it sounds like the other firms that you interviewed had the same opinion that we do, that 2-year term would make some people hesitant to apply. If you look at city managers, city attorneys, county councils, county administrators, usually the shortest term you see will be a 3-year with an automatic renewal. Most are usually a 4-year. And so we did indicate in our interview that we felt that extending that to maybe at least 4 years would be helpful in the recruitment process. Obviously, you can put whatever you would like in your employment agreement with this individual, but I do think that 2 years is too short a period. Our staff is currently looking at some of your comparable agencies to look at their independent performance auditor terms to see if they are comparable, and we'll be coming back with that information to the audit committee.
And my understanding, Vice Mayor, just so that it's clear, is that recommendation is going to come to executive committee so that the executive committee can take a look at it, and then we'll bring it to the full board about extending it from 2 to 3 years. And so we will be able to have that discussion in a formal process as well, correct? Because that, I think, is going to be the recommendation from the audit committee. Did you want to add anything, Council?
I think that's an appropriate way to proceed, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor Jones.
Thank you. That's actually what I was thinking about too. And, how long was our executive director's original contract for? Was it 3 years or 4 years? 3 years. I think we should at least do 3 years, being that, we want to get someone that's very talented. It is a big job. It's an important job. And there's a pretty hefty workload. And to delve into all of it, I think that would take some time. So we definitely don't want to lose someone. I'm just not quite sure. And maybe this doesn't make sense, but why can't we make that decision today to extend that to 3 years? Is this, because I was trying to look on my phone, but I couldn't find it quick enough. Is this by AB 805 statute or the 2-year contract, or was that something that we have in our bylaws, which doesn't make sense? So if you could maybe clear that up for me.
Specifically, it is not an AB 805, it's in board policy. Board policy 39, section 5.1 says the independent performance auditor shall serve a 2-year term.
So I guess my question is, why do our bylaws conflict with AB 805? Because that doesn't make any sense. And
I don't have the answer.
I know
for
that's
that,
another issue, but
we can actually have that conversation in October when we look at all the policy. October is the one we're looking at. Yeah, so we can look at that. But so I don't want to interrupt you, but is there a process of why we need to wait? Because it's not an item on the agenda to move it for 3 years right now. And my assumption, I could be wrong, is that we want to make sure that the public knows that we're going to be moving it from 2 to 3 years and giving the public an opportunity to provide input and for us to be able to make a discussion, just have discussion and to be able to vote on it. Is that why we're not taking a vote today?
That certainly is part of it. It's driven in large part by your agenda. A waiver of a board policy is a significant move, and that's not something that's agendized for this item. But what you could do is you can give direction to just remain silent on this, to retain your flexibility to either waive the board policy in the future, should you elect to do so, or to modify the board policy overall moving forward.
Okay, so I think for purposes of the recruitment process, is that something, what's the actual language, or maybe you can provide from board guidance to the vice chair and the chair and Pam that we are interested in moving in that direction, and we just kind of nudge that, and then we'll bring back the item so that we can vote on it. Is that the right thing to do?
So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
guess my further question would be, are you saying, Mr. Kirk, that we are not allowed to change it to 3 during this process here today? Because I really feel like it will be a deterrent from people from getting good talent and get the workforce and get the recruitment out there, I feel like it will be something that would really keep our pond, shall we say, very small and not as extensive as it could be.
It's my opinion that waiving board policy 39 today would be inconsistent with the agenda and would raise a risk of violating the Brown Act. But understanding your goal in attracting candidates and having this flexibility, having the recruitment and giving direction to the recruiter to not set a time in the recruitment or to say the time is subject to negotiation or further consideration could achieve your end while remaining compliant with the Brown Act.
So does that require a special action from us today?
Well, no, I think what we're going to do is, so my understanding, and somebody can make a motion, I won't make the motion, but what I'm hearing from you, and I have a couple of other folks on the queue, and it's also my interest that it moves to expanding it so that we can get the best, person for the role, is we just had a discussion, and as a board, we can make a recommendation. Ms. Derby's sitting here in front of us, and we can let her know that as you're moving forward with the recruitment process, maybe we can adjust that the timing, you're able to have the conversations with folks. And if there are specific folks that you think should know about this, know that that's the will of the board, but that we are going to be at the next meeting, bringing forth this item to be able to expand. Mostly because I think what I want to make sure we don't do is we don't get into this process, because then it says president about like just changing things on the fly. And I want to make sure the public always has an opportunity to provide feedback and that everybody understands what we're actually trying to comply with, which I think everybody here in the room would like to do. But I think it'll meet the goals that we have so that people understand that we are probably thinking about a 3-year term or something like that. And I think the whole board will have to have that discussion when the item is actually brought forth. Would that be appropriate, Council?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to the Vice Chair, and then I have on the queue, I have Councilmember Duncan, and then I have Councilmember Gastelum.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the work on this. I agree that could be some benefits yielded from having a less defined and such a short tenure for the auditor. I also agree, though, that taking that action today would probably be in violation of the Brown Act and deems some more consideration on our part and discussion, as well as the chair mentioned, an opportunity for the public to know that that's an item that's being docketed and weigh in on it as well. With that, I am happy to make a motion to approve the staff recommendation for this item, Chair.
You have a motion?
I second.
Just briefly, after hearing Mayor Jones's comments and all the other comments, did I hear right that it's going to be, did you say on October? On the agenda is the current plan after it goes to the executive committee?
No. The discussion on October is we are having a conversation in October about all of our policy recommendations. Okay. So anything that you think that needs to be addressed in terms of our overall, what is the actual title of them? Just to make sure I put it on the record correctly.
There's probably a lot of things you could call it, but ultimately it's a comprehensive evaluation of our board policies and bylaws that happens on an annual basis.
Okay, and so maybe my suggestion is already happening, but my suggestion, and to comply with the Brown Act concerns that were mentioned, and also Mayor Jones's concerns, would just be to agendize this on the next soonest agenda that we're able to do so.
Yes, that's actually what I said. And so what I'm going to do, and I just mentioned to our team that we're going to follow the process. We're going to go ahead and bring it forth to executive committee for the next approval of the agenda, and then we'll all have a discussion. So we're good. All right, council member.
Good. Thank you, Chair. I want to be responsive to the request that you made of the board members and here say, this person who's going to fill this role here at SANDAG is potentially the most, well, not potentially, but in my mind is the most important position at this institution of SANDAG. Mary Kosh-Mashrab has been dedicated and committed to this, to improving systems and how things work here at SANDAG. And I think we can look to her and the kind of person she is and what she's brought to the table as an example of the quality of character that we need in this internal auditor. So Mary. I spent 1.5 hours with her most recently in my annual discussion with her as a board member. And I look forward to talking with her and sitting with her every time it's on my agenda. I always learn something. She has taught me about weighing risks and how to approach risk and assessing risk. Her job is to brief each of us here on the board of what the risks are. And that's the risk regarding everything from who we're choosing as our leadership at SANDAG, what we're not doing, what we are doing, the risks of running a train on the bluffs in Del Mar and not relocating it immediately. All these risks come together and they are our responsibility as a board. We're the ones who are taking those risks. But Mary Kashmashrab is the one who's assessing the risks, adding them up and bringing them to us. So she's available, she's aware, she's assertive, she's engaged, she has the courage to speak up, she's a team builder. We should be fully funding her audit team. We haven't as a board. She has empty slots that don't have money in the budget.
Councilmember, I really appreciate your comments.
I have
Let's
just
focus
two
on
more.
the independent
Okay.
and your recommendations and not
Right,
specifically
so-
talk about.
Well, my
Well,
point is
we're
that
having a conversation. Go ahead. So I just want to make sure that we're very focused on your recommendations specific to
well, all of
Ms.
these are
Pam.
recommendations.
And let's take out Mary from it because we're talking about what we want the independent person to be, right? So as in organizational management, you know this as a scientist, it's really important to focus on the position, not the individual, because that way we are going to find the best person for the job. So I get you. Feel free to continue on that, but let's focus on that because I actually would love to at some point have a discussion about what the role of the audit committee is. You know, I mean, the audit member, I'm sorry, not the committee. We've had some of this about, you know, providing recommendations for systems, et cetera, and we may agree to disagree on what things are, but I think let's focus on what Ms. Pam can take with her as she's looking for the best recruitment.
Right. Well, that's my intent. I'm using examples drive everything. And our current internal auditor has been an excellent example. So she's willing to, the auditor needs to be, just change all my words from she to the auditor needs to be willing to challenge the system that's in place, willing to point out what can change and what should change, and recognize that those are not the same thing, but giving us the risks on that are very important. The internal auditor needs to be smart, needs to be patient, and needs to have resolve. Again, it's perhaps the most important position at SANDAG, and I encourage all my fellow board members to take advantage of the fact that we have access to our internal auditor at any time and to ask questions. Even when it's something in your own town, if it touches SANDAG, the internal auditor, her role or his role or their role is to make sure we're doing our job right. Thank you.
Mayor Vasquez.
Thank you very much. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for bringing this item forward, because what's really important with this agency is that we do everything that we possibly can to minimize risk. And if we can do that through the auditing process, then what will happen is through data and facts and truth and transparency, we can all work together to move transportation forward. And that's important. We know that risk is qualitative, but also quantitative. And as a former member of the audit committee, I learned a lot about how important it is to really take a look at the documents that you have in place to make sure that processes and controls are recognized and acknowledged, and to make sure that every single dollar that is spent on behalf of this agency goes right back into our communities through transportation. So this is a critical role that the future auditor will take, looking at the policies that are in place, making sure that training is in place for all staff so that they are aware of the proper procedures and policies that govern this agency, and looking at the software systems and making sure that the software systems are up to date. I'm talking 20th century software systems, and to ensure that poor practices of the past were acknowledged and that steps are taken to mitigate those poor practices so that we can move forward better as an agency in the future. So thank you for moving forward with this process. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone for your thorough discussion and for providing information to Ms. Darby. And thank you, Vice Chair, for all the great work, and Chair Cito and everyone else. We're going to continue to move this work forward. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Did I vote?
That motion passes with those members present.
Again, thank you so much. We appreciate you. The next item on the agenda is item number 10. We have Antoinette Mier. Did I pronounce that correctly? Meyer, I apologize. Meyer, with part one of our 2025 regional plan workshop. As a reminder, today's discussion is really focused as the team joins us. I just want to make sure it was level set. That today's discussion is really focused on making sure we all understand the fundamentals of what the regional plan, what our responsibility is. Again, we have a lot of new board members, so we want to make sure we do that. And then we also are clear of, why we're doing it. It's also, I want to make sure everybody's fully informed about what our role is in the regional plan, and also as we're aware of the key decisions that we're going to have to be making as we move forward. With that, what we're going to do is we're going to have the presentation, and then at the next meeting, we will continue the workshop on May 12th, where we're actually going to end our goal of agreeing on some of the principles and guiding framework to lead the plan's development going forward. And as I mentioned before, this is for the 2025 regional plan. And that's what we want to focus on today as we're moving forward. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Chairwoman. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Antoinette Meyer, your planning director, and I'm really happy to be here today to kick off the 2025 plan. Just quick point of clarification. We will provide the memo that you requested on the 2021 regional plan. That's not the topic of today's presentation. We'll get that information out, and then we'll come to you in June or earlier if you so choose to give a presentation on that as well. But that is on track, on schedule. Everything's moving forward as planned. Today is the 2025 plan. This is our regular 4-year update of the regional plan. This is the first part of the workshop where I'm going to focus on project schedule, the major requirements of the plan, the core components. And then next week, we'll take a deeper dive into how we put together a compliant plan, and we'll have a fun activity for you, similar to the puzzle that you did at the board retreat, that'll give you the experience of putting together kind of a conceptual transportation network. But first, let's start with the basics. So what is a regional plan? The regional plan is a lot of things. It's a complex planning document. We consider it our blueprint for how the region will grow, how the transportation system will develop. I know we often think of it as a transportation plan, and it certainly is, but it really encompasses many, many things. How we will accommodate future growth, how we'll protect the environment, sensitive habitat, how we'll address climate change. It is required by both federal and state law. It has to be updated every 4 years. It has to look out at least 20 years into the future. And there's a number of federal and state laws that it has to comply with. We have to use the latest data and planning assumptions as the basis of the plan. This is probably one of the most important things that we do as an agency, because having a plan that is approved, a compliant plan, is the basis for getting state and federal funding in the region. And that is the majority of the funding that we all get for transportation in the region. So the regional plan is not actually, it's actually 3 required documents. It is the federal regional transportation plan, and then the state required sustainable community strategy and regional comprehensive plan. And it's these 3 plans combined that are supposed to demonstrate how the decisions that we make around housing, land use, and transportation will achieve some very specific goals and targets. As I mentioned, there's a lot of requirements and laws that we have to comply with. I'm only going to have time today to go over some of the major requirements, but we did provide an attachment for you to the staff report that is a much more comprehensive list of all of the federal and state requirements. So at the federal level, we have to comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and a variety of executive orders on environmental justice. And what this does is it really ensures that our plan meets the mobility and access needs of absolutely every person in the region, and that we're addressing health and the environment, particularly in those communities that have been overly burdened by pollution. We also have to conform with the Clean Air Act, and we have to go through a very formal process to demonstrate how the projects in the plan will not worsen or create any new air quality violations, and that's what we call our air quality conformity process. At the state level, of course, we have to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, so we have to do an environmental impact report for the regional plan. This is an extensive 18-month process where we identify all of the potential environmental impacts of the plan, and then we put forward mitigation and alternative strategies for addressing those environmental impacts. But arguably, the most impactful law regarding regional plan development is Senate Bill 375, the Sustainable Communities Act. That was enacted back in 2008, and among many other things, it requires that regional planning agencies like SANDAG demonstrate how the investments that they propose in their regional plan will achieve a specific greenhouse gas emission reduction target. That target is set by the California Air Resources Board, and the target for our region currently is 19%. We can't achieve that target by simply putting people in electric vehicles. We have to actually get people to drive less and reduce vehicle miles traveled. And this is hard. It's getting harder with every plan cycle because 2035 is really just right around the corner. We've got about 10 more years with this next plan to be able to achieve that target. The plan is not static. So I know some of you have been around for a while, and you might remember back in 2018 when CARB increased the target from 13% to 19%. And the plan that we were developing at the time, our 2019 plan, we were very far along with it. We realized was not going to achieve that target. So the board at the time sought legislative authority to get a 2-year extension to go back to the drawing board and develop a plan that would meet the law. And that became the 2021 regional plan that was adopted by the board in December of 2021. The plan was approved by the U.S. Department of Transportation, and then it was accepted by CARB with some concerns around implementation. And CARB always provides a pretty extensive evaluation report of the plans that they review. We provided a link to that full evaluation report. I've highlighted a couple of the things on this slide that we'll want to consider as we move forward with the 2025 plan. They encourage us to really prioritize investments that will reduce VMT, vehicle miles traveled, and greenhouse gas emissions the most. They want to see alignment between local and regional plans. They want to see more competitive transit travel times. So the 2021 regional plan had probably the best transit travel times we've had in a regional plan, but they think there's more that we could do to make transit travel times comparable with drive travel times. And they want us to minimize any managed lane expansion that could induce vehicle miles traveled. So even though the 2021 regional plan really works within the existing right-of-way, it uses the shoulder to add managed lanes. They see this as capacity increasing and a project that could add VMT. So the regional plan is very complex. It's a complicated document. The 2021 regional plan has around 40 technical appendices that we have to produce to comply with all of the requirements. But this slide highlights some of the major efforts, the big efforts in the plan, starting with data and modeling. I mentioned that we have to have current data that we base the plan on, and that starts with the growth forecast and collecting a lot of travel data for both commercial vehicles and passenger vehicles in the region. We're doing that now, and you heard from Dr. Burke, I think earlier this year, on a lot of those data collection efforts. That data feeds very sophisticated land use and transportation models, and we use those models to really forecast where people will live and how they'll travel around the region in the future. We have to have a financial strategy. We have to have a revenue constrained plan. We have to consider all of the foreseeable revenues that could be coming into the region over the life of the plan, and that's local sources, state sources, federal sources. we have to have a very comprehensive list of projects, policies, and programs that are phased over the life of the plan with cost estimates for each of those policies, projects, and programs. I mentioned that we have to do an environmental impact report. And then, of course, we have to do stakeholder and community engagement, and that's guided by a public involvement plan. And you have a link to the public involvement plan in your staff report as well. So this slide really translates those major components into a schedule, and the schedule is really the stages of plan development between now and late 2025 when we need to approve a plan and submit it to the regulatory agencies. So right now we're in that first stage, and this is where we're taking in a lot of input from you, from the public. We're collecting that data, we're updating our modeling tools, we're doing some initial evaluation and analysis of projects in the plan, and that will happen through the summer. Then in the fall, we'll have an initial concept that we will bring to you for input. And between fall and this time next year, we'll work to really refine that concept and come up with our preferred scenario. Once we have that preferred scenario, then we can start working on that draft plan and the environmental impact report. And that takes about a year to produce. To go from draft to final, we have to go through the required public comment and review period. We have to respond to those comments. Then we make any final adjustments to the plan, and we bring a plan to you in the winter of 2025, along with the EIR to consider for adoption. Now, this slide highlights the areas where we'll be coming to you over the course of this year between now and December, because this year really is a big year for the plan. As I mentioned, by the end of this year, we want to have a draft plan concept so we can start to test it in the model and see if we're achieving our targets and goals. So we're starting now with the regional plan fundamentals, and then at your next board meeting, I mentioned, we'll continue this conversation. This summer, we'll be back to talk about funding the plan, the financial strategy, policies in the plan. In the summer, we want to start talking about the data, some of the outcomes of the data that we've been collecting through the surveys, how we use that data to evaluate projects. We'll bring forward the forecast. Then in the early fall, we'll have that initial concept with costs and initial funding. And then by December, we want to refine that concept and have something that we can start to test in the model. So this graphic will look familiar to those of you who attended the board retreat. It's a model that the facilitator introduced called the circles of control, influence, and concern. And what it does really is there are a lot of things that concern us that we don't control. And as humans, naturally, we spend a lot of time thinking about those things, like the weather, for example. But it's not the best use of our time. Our brain power is better spent on those things that we directly control and influence. So if you look at this at a personal level, most of us don't control what time we have to be at work in the morning, but what we do control is what time we go to bed, what time we set our alarm. And while we don't have any control over how well we sleep, there's things that we can do to influence the quality of our sleep, like not drink caffeine after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which I'm guilty of, and not having too much screen time before you go to bed. While there are a number of things that we can't control with the regional plan, and these things are concerning to us, there are many ways that we can meet the law. So we can't control the carb reductions. We can't control the air quality standards that we have to meet. We can't control the fact that we have to do an environmental impact report, but there is more than one way to achieve these targets and these goals. There's a lot of things that we influence with the regional plan. And so examples of the things that we influence are legislative policies. You all adopt a legislative program every year that outlines the priorities, and we can help to influence legislative policies that way. We can influence public awareness and perception by how we do our outreach, the words that we say, how we communicate with the public. And while we can't control our financial strategy, there's a lot of things that we can do to influence funding programs. And there are a number of things that we control in the regional plan as well. So while we can't control the fact that we have to have a plan that complies with the VMT and GHG reduction targets, we get to select the projects, the programs, and the policies that go into the plan to achieve that target. We also have a lot of control over which local revenues we choose to put into the funding strategy for the plan. We define the goals and the guiding principles for the plan. And while we have to do public outreach and have that public involvement plan, we get to develop the strategy for how we do public outreach. So we're hoping that we can have a lot of conversations on these topics that we can control starting today. With that, I think I've spoken enough, and I want to hand it over to you so that we can hear from you and answer any questions that you have. I do want to say that I have other directors here with me today today. The plan involves everyone in the agency. So you get the finance department, the data science, our capital and engineering team, because we all have a major role to play. And we're here to help answer any questions that you have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your thoroughness. Let me go ahead and have public comment, and then we'll turn it over to member comments.
Thank you. I'll start with the folks that are in the room with us. We'll start with Alan C. and then move to Michael Brando after that.
Oh, Harry, we could not control what the state dictates to us. Yes, we can control. You can deny, I don't want the funds. Because again, what I did not see in that report was safety. All the stuff about climate, transportation. What about traffic safety? What about congestion? Congestion leads to your climate problem. And yes, when the electric car does take over, you have resolved your climate issue. You mentioned earlier about a bike to work day. And then you mentioned pit stops. How many trucks are we sending out? They need roads. Your cake and donuts over there, who delivered that? They need roads. Amazon needs roads. We need roads. We've been promised since 1987 Transnet for roads. And yet you're pushing this climate nonsense. And I saw Rebecca Jones, you spoke up. Thank you. I saw you spoke up too. Where are the rest of you? Why aren't you speaking up for the people? Mileage tax? Are you kidding me? You raise a tax on road use I already paid for, it's going to affect the cost of diapers, delivery of milk, delivery of eggs. It's already overpriced. Start speaking up. Where's your voice?
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker, Michael Brando, who will be followed by Armin Kurdian.
I used the name Michael. Thank you for putting these packages together. This is great that all this is deception is laid out here and people can research it and look it up. Yeah, I echo that. No mileage tax and no gaslighting by changing the language and saying, oh, it's not a tax. It's clear as day what's going on here. Drive less, reduce VMT. And then, of course, this all dovetails into 15-minute cities. And please do not be like Jim Desmond and say, well, and kind of give the idea he's never heard of a 15-minute city. 15-minute cities. It all dovetails into this. And by the way, this person who put this together, you did a good job. I'm really glad you used this psychological bit back here, because what you can't control is trying to change false root assumptions and lies into the truth. You can't do that. Get off your phone, Joel. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Armin Kurdian, will be followed by Consuelo.
Excuse me. Thank you, Board of Directors. I'm not sure how many people here really grasp how woefully short the RTP comes when it comes to cost estimates. For example, a lot of the capital projects don't have realistic lines for how much it's going to cost to actually sustain and support that new infrastructure, which is generally twice the cost of the initial expenditure. I was just driving to the zoo the other day, and there was grass growing through the streets of San Diego neighborhoods. We can't even maintain the infrastructure that we have right now. There's no mention of cybersecurity, well, very lip service of cybersecurity within the plan without a real grasp of understanding what that means. No mention of GPS and timing systems, what that's going to mean, how those need to be protected. In terms of cost, 2017 study showed that net operating loss at $50 billion of cities that had public transportation, $1.6 billion in Los Angeles alone in 2019. And also the other major issue I see is that some of the biggest advocates for this plan talk about how many jobs it's going to bring to San Diego County. That's like saying we need to build an aircraft carrier so we can feed the crew. The RTP, as it is said, is unachievable from an engineering, programmatic, and budgetary point of view. You need to do a lot better, and you need to make something that's more realistic that's actually going to serve the city and county. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Consuelo, who will be followed by our final in-person speaker, Mark.
3.8 million people in the county and only a handful come. That just goes to show you nobody's paying attention. Global warming is a part of a natural cycle, and there's nothing we can actually do to stop these cycles. The world is now facing spending a vast amount of money in taxes trying to solve a problem that doesn't actually exist. That was from Dr. David Bellamy. How long does it take for a people that have been lied to about everything to catch up with reality? To liquidate people, you start by depriving them of their memory. They destroy your books, your culture, your history, and someone else writes other books, gives them another culture, invents other stories. After that, people slowly begin to forget what they are and what they were, and the world around you forgets even faster. Brothers and sisters, they laugh at us, but don't forget, never forget, that the most advanced technology on this planet is you.
Our next speaker is Mark, who will be followed by phone number 899.
Nine 19% reduction. That's pretty much all the driving you do except going to work. What a great fucking plan. So they don't care at all about our input. It's Rand Corporation Delphi technique. They're going to do all this anyway if the people don't get together and stop them. People need to see these videos. You can start on the Rosa Corey video from 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And she will tell you exactly what these people are doing. There's no higher authority. She was an expert court witness in California courts. You should also see this. The road usage charge is just a different name that they've come up with, and they may come up with another name if people catch on to pass this, knowing people don't want it because they are a tyrannical corporate oligarchy. And this woman over here is smiling like none of that means anything. The people specifically don't want the mileage tax. You guys are doing it. It's totally evil. So, oh, by the way, Rosa Corey mentioned SANDAG prominently in her video. And
thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be phone number 899, who will be followed by Carolina Martinez. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mary Davis here. First, great concise presentation, Ms. Meyer. Thank you for that. For directors, as you start down the path developing the 2025 regional plan, I'm here to let you know in no uncertain terms that there is strong, wide, and deep public opposition to any type of mechanism to charge us based upon the miles we drive. Also, please pare down the regional plan as you transition from the 2021 plan to the 2025 and reduce it in scope, especially in budget. The aspirational $160 billion is not grounded in reality. Any plan to charge residents more on top of our already astronomical energy bills and housing costs is kicking us when we're down. Lastly, while we keep hearing that the 2021 plan is not going to include any road usage charge, I am asking you to please publicly state that none will be included in any version of the 2025 regional plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carolina Martinez, who will be followed by Paul Henkin. Carolina, please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Carolina with the Environmental Health Coalition and the San Diego Transportation Equity Working Group. I'm here to thank you for the report. We look forward to being engaged in the planning process. We also want to make sure that equity is a central part of the plan. As you know, we've been working very closely to advance the 10 transit lifelines, and we want to make sure that they're reflected in the plan update. And we really appreciate the lifting up of the prioritization of investments so that we could have competitive travel time in transit. And so how do we align that priority with the 10 transit lifelines? In addition, we also want to look at an expansion of the Cleaner Act conformity to see if we could set air pollution reduction targets the same way we have greenhouse gas emission targets. So we look forward to collaborating with the staff, and that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Henkin, who will be followed by phone number 731. Please go ahead, sir.
Paul Henkin, glad I sent a letter. A 1-minute speech is a lot easier to ignore. Do not incorporate mileage tax, RUC, or similar name into the regional plan for 2025. It is regressive and hurts lower income people the most. SANDAG is a transportation planning agency under PUC Code Section 132005 and has no taxation or legislative authority to unilaterally impose a fee. SANDAG is a regional authority, but has weighted the vote to give 4 jurisdictions a majority while shutting out the rest from the meaningful decision process. All this while Hassan says every region is as important. Any tax or fee SANDAG imposes would in effect be taxation without representation. A better idea would be to use tax credit and send.
Time has expired. Our next speaker is phone number 731, who will be followed by the original draw. Go ahead, please.
Truth, why not just call it the 2030 regional plan and openly admit that it's aligned with the UN's Agenda 2030 plan? And that keeps updating the regional plan because of CARB raising the GHG reduction targets. Well, NORA's on both boards, conflict of interest. But who cares if the road usage charge is removed or not? Read the whole regional plan. It's much bigger. For example, quote, smart cities with a high concentration of people, micro-transponder ownership of 100%, managed toll lanes, substantially increasing the price of parking and the cost of driving. No new highways or lanes. 93% of housing will be multifamily stack and packs. Transformations in the fabric of life, government regulating economic activities and personal behaviors, end quote. Any and every SANDAG regional plan belongs in the hazardous waste bin, right along with all the toxic lithium-based stupid smart infrastructure they want to control us with. The state and federal governments could take back their debt dollars and let all traitors in government fast and repent like it's Ramadan. No 2025 plan, circle of control, and absolute lies. No taxation without representation is called.
Thank you. Your time has expired. The next speaker is the original draw, who will be followed by our final 2 speakers, Catherine Rhodes and then Karina Contreras. Please go ahead.
Love your propaganda updates. They're so fantastic. I like how you want to control influence and you have some concerns. How interesting. But like you said, you can't control that. You have to have public comment, dang it, because you guys would love to do this without the say of the public. But at least you get to say how we get to do it, right? According to you. Are you telling people how you're collecting their data? I bet they would like to know that, but you probably don't want them to know. And regardless, like you said, you have to get people to drive less, right? So you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that nobody is driving anywhere. Well, what does that mean for you guys? Are you going to be walking, Nora? Joel, are you going to be walking? I bet not, because you're probably going to have a car like Jim wants, which it just drives you around, right? This is all a part of UN Agenda 21. You guys are full of it. None of the people consent. You know that. And therefore, none of this should be put through because you need to have the consent of the people. And you don't. You never do.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes, who will be followed by the final speaker, Karina Contreras. Catherine, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Catherine Rhodes. And the reason why we have a beautiful world-class San Diego International Airport is because the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority and the FAA airport district officer in Los Angeles have been giving you false information that we lost our grandfather status. Back in 2018, SANDAG attorney actually finally started to analyze us. But instead of doing my recommendation of going to the state and asking the State Lands Commission or the state attorney general for a legal opinion on our state public trust tide lands, instead, he basically just went along with the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority and the FAA, ADO in LA, and he pretended, or he went along and said, we don't have a grandfathered airport. We do. You've lost billions of dollars that could have been put into transit because you don't go to the state attorney general. Please finally do.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our final speaker is Karina Contreras. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Karina Contreras. I'm speaking in my capacity as Transportation Policy Advocate for Climate Action Campaign. I want to thank you for the education being provided when it comes to regional planning. It's extremely complicated, so it's great for the public to have the opportunity to see how these plans need to be put together and which state laws are applicable. Essential that we really make travel times competitive when taking transit versus using a vehicle. All parts of the San Diego region need to be connected. We need to focus on a zero carbon future, so that way future generations have the ability to live, to thrive, and to be connected to one another in a future San Diego. Thank you so much. I look forward to this plan being focused on communities of concern and the continuance of the Youth Opportunity Pass. Thank you again.
And that concludes the public comments.
Thank you. So the chair had to step out to attend to some of her responsibilities on the California Resource Board. I have some comments from the chair that I'm going to relay to the board and the public. I'll start by thanking Antoinette for the presentation and the detail and thoughtfulness that she put into that. The chair wished to highlight the complexity that she recognized when she first took a look at the presentation, the many requirements that make it especially challenging to hit the tough targets that we have. That is why she would like us to emphasize how important it is for us to continue practicing the both and approach that we discussed at the board retreat. There are going to be many things that many of us want, and the things, and obviously things that people don't want. We hear a lot of that as well. It's going to be up to the board to figure out how we do all of that and meet the requirements that we need to meet. We can save that conversation for our next meeting, but today the chair wanted to make sure that we get technical questions answered. We're going to work together with the board and community to plan for the priorities to put a plan together that prioritizes projects for everyone in our region. And the other thing that we wanted to both emphasize here is that based on the timeline that we saw, it's really important that this year is when the board provides key direction on the policy directions that will inform this plan. Once we start modeling next year, we will be able to refine. But between now and December, it's really going to be important for the board, in collaboration with the community, to engage and shape the direction that we're headed in. So with that, we will go to member comments, beginning with Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and for helping to set the stage for what will be an ongoing process for us to start today with perhaps getting a little bit more technical information. I have two parts of my comments that I'd like to make. First, I want to get a little bit more clarifying information about CARB and the feedback that we've received from CARB. And then I also want to investigate our metrics and especially speak a little bit about the consultation and cooperation portion. So my question regarding CARB is to understand, how does the feedback from the CARB evaluation impact the possibility of increasing managed or HOV lanes on SR 78 in North County? Are the minimization of managed lanes focused on projects that add lane miles, such as expanding lanes into the shoulder? And I ask this because to folks in Vista and North County, improvements to SR 78 are very important to us. So as we're going about this 2025 regional plan, what would staff's recommendations be regarding SR 78 in that plan? And how do we implement those recommendations with the consideration from CARB's feedback?
I don't think we have a recommendation for SR 78 at this point in time. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from the public, and we want to have a thoughtful discussion about all of the corridors in the region. The CARB evaluation report, the details are provided to you in the staff report. So there's a link that goes to the full evaluation. The shoulder conversions was something that concerned them because they thought that it was a VMT inducing project because it adds additional capacity. So that is their take on managed lane adds, whether it's new lanes that are being added or the conversion of existing right-of-way.
And if we were to add such lanes, would we be at risk of having an unsuccessful plan that wouldn't be approved?
It's very hard to get to the 19% reduction by 2035. Certainly projects that add any vehicle capacity add to VMT, and we have to mitigate for that VMT somehow. So there's always the possibility that, yes, we won't meet the target. As I mentioned, the plan that we were working on for 2019 didn't achieve that 19% target. There were additional managed lanes proposed in that regional plan, so we had to do something different. But we'll use the data, we'll use the modeling tools, we'll evaluate different project scenarios based on the input that we get.
Okay, thank you. I would agree there's so much more to discuss, right? I just wanted to get a little bit of context about how CARB's evaluation may affect, something that is close to my area of influence. And going forward, I would love to discuss a little bit about consultation and cooperation and what our vision is as a board to enhance public participation. This is something that's really important to me and something I work really hard to do actively in my council position. I'm very, very active to increase public engagement. I believe that the consent of the public is one of the most important things and something I strive to do. Within the checklist for the plan, there were some expectations, right? And one of the expectations is to hold public meetings at convenient and accessible locations and times, and also for us. To consult with the appropriate state and local representatives. So I just wanted to highlight that as an essential part of the rubric that I think we need to start with, right? Rather than starting at the top, really making sure that we build out a plan for public participation. Because when it comes to issues like SR 78 or the many, many other projects that are going to impact the local communities, ultimately, I want to ensure that we are having a very high regard for public participation and doing a variety of workshop style forms of engagement. I can empathize with many of the speakers who are frustrated by their time being reduced to 1 minute. And I think that in this particular setting, it's appropriate based on our time constraints. But I believe that we can build into our process of a 2025 regional plan more dynamic workshop styles that allow people to start to express their imagination of what they want their community to look like. And I would be very supportive of that. I also had a question in regards to the state requirements. There's state requirements to identify disadvantaged communities. And I really want us to investigate, and I would like to better understand, how do we identify disadvantaged communities? And how do those communities maybe differ? We're such a big region, right? With such a diverse community. How do disadvantaged communities differ in the city of Vista versus, right, where we're at today? And I think that if we can get closer to a more inclusive picture that allows for a high level of public engagement, we can have a plan that is well received by the public, and that would definitely be my goal. So thank you for the presentation, and this first, initial conversation being one where we can just start the conversation. And I look forward to working with everyone and hearing from everyone else.
Thank you, Councilmember Melendez. We'll go to Mayor Jones and then Councilmember Shu.
Thank you, Vice Chair Ela Rivera. Okay, so the first thing that I have a few things. So the residents of San Diego County have been paying for the 78 HOV lanes for quite a while now, and they still have not been built. And the discussion that now maybe they're not allowable is kind of an issue, because that means that we're breaking a promise to our residents, and they've been paying these taxes and they have an expectation of actually having those. So my understanding is we send the plan to CARB. They don't really, honestly, at the end of the day, really care what our mitigation measures are, as long as they're mitigating and our number is what it needs to be. Am I correct in that?
They provide a lot of input on all of the areas of concern that they have with the plan. Their analysis goes beyond just looking at whether or not we achieve the 19% reduction. It also is whether or not they believe that the implementation strategy that we've put into place is actually achievable. So they could deny a plan that achieved the 19% because they could say that they don't believe that it's implementable.
Could, but not necessarily. And my understanding was also that we were less than 0.5% off in the last in the last plan, in the 2021 plan, correct? It was less than 0.5% that we were off.
The amendment, is that
No,
what we're?
before the amendment.
Oh, the 2019 plan?
I'm sorry, after the amendment, you're correct. My apologies.
Yes,
Yeah.
after the amendment is 18.6%.
Right, okay. And then, and then going on to page 120, sorry, in the PowerPoint. It also, talking about the financial plan, we have, I guess, putting it in perspective as the 2025 update. I think we need to be really careful about the financial part, because there are a lot of things that we haven't really talked about in a while. One is now we have union-only contracts. We have a sales tax measure that was supposed to start this year, a second sales tax measure that is supposed to start in 29, I believe it is. And then we also have the reallocation of Transnet, which we haven't even voted to do thus far, that was supposed to pay for things that we've already promised our residents that they have actually paid on. I'm actually, one of the things, looking at this timeline, I look at this and I think, my God, we're already behind, because what we had already said, and this is honestly, and I brought this up previously, we found ourselves in a situation where, and I'm not saying it's staff's fault, because I don't like pointing the finger, but we ended up having this, you have to vote for this now today, because if you don't vote for this now today, then you're going to have federal dollars and state dollars that are at jeopardy, which we're already having this conversation. But here we have the timeline that was supposed to start winter of 2022 and go through summer of 2023. And based on what our vice chair read for our chair, we're now looking at now through December, where we give feedback. I have asked for this to happen numerous times, that we have this discussion of the framework, because we were essentially taking the framework that we already had in place for the 21 plan and now moving it forward. We really need to try to figure out how we're going to make this fit everyone's. I have a problem. I'm worried about the time frame, because I don't think we're gonna end up. Not that we're not going to. I believe that we will end up in the same situation where we're against a time frame, and then we're told, well, you have to vote now for this today, and it's not good. You don't have any other options. I don't want that to happen. So I'm hoping, and maybe you can help alleviate my concern over this, because I really am very anxious about it, that we're not going to have enough time to actually do what we need to do to come up with a plan where we really do get provided the feedback from our communities and from our board members. So maybe you can help me out on that time frame. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, Antoinette.
No, it's okay. So we have a plan to come to you almost every month between now and the end of the year, where we need to have that draft concept prepared to start the modeling, to test it, to see if it achieves the targets. So you'll hear from us and we'll have a robust discussion this summer on financial strategy and the funding options. We're gonna talk a lot about projects. We're gonna come back various times so that you can weigh in on the iterations from that initial concept down to something that we all agree is the plan that we want to put forward and make sure achieves the goals. So we have more. It was a sprint with the 2021 regional plan. We had a fraction of the time that we have this time. There's definitely milestones that we have to meet along the way because that EIR process takes a while, that public comment process going from draft to final. But there is much more time than we had with the 2021 plan under those extenuating circumstances and the schedule that was placed before us.
So I
Mayor
would
Jones,
suggest.
really quick, Hassan wanted to provide some
If I
additional
may just add,
information
thank
as
you,
well.
Mayor Jones, and to Councilmember Melendez's point. Of course, outreach is really important and has been in the 2021, will continue to be in the 2025. As to identifying the disadvantaged communities, there is a statewide process with a map that the state uses, and we use that to do that, but we'll talk more about that in specific. As to the timeline, we don't set the timeline. This is a federal and state requirement to update the plan every 4 years. And the reason we're coming to you now, because we're still early in the process, I want to make sure your input is taken. But as to the comments, whether the Air Resources Board and even the federal government look at just the number, the 19%, and the answer is no. They look as whether what the measures that you have there is implementable by the time frame we said it's going to be, whether the financial plan is fundable, and the funding definition by the federal requirement is reasonably funded. You don't have to have the money in the bank, but you have to have reasonable ways of obtaining that money. I will tell you this, and it's really important for you at this stage to know before you're asked to vote because you run out of time. I've been through 5 or 6 of this in the LA area and here. This is a complicated process that you have to rely on your professionals to inform you so you can make informed decision. It is not a simple exercise to say, well, I want this instead of that. At the end of the day, the staff need to put in front of you alternatives that we think meet the requirement. Now, you might not think this is significant, but to me, it's significant. In the last few years, we did get a few $1 billion from the federal and state government because we had a plan that met the requirements. Not only jeopardizing, but jeopardizing many of the other programs that you start the implementation of. So I would agree with Mayor Jones that you shouldn't be in a situation where you're asked to vote because we ran out of time. You still have a lot of time right now to have your say, but at the same time, you can't predetermine what the plan is before your professional staff come to you with things that can be implemented, can be funded, and can meet the requirement. That's why you hire professional staff to advise you. This is not a political exercise. This is about policy. At the end of the day, you're going to make the decision whether yeah or nay, and you're going to take the risk whether you want a plan or you don't want a plan. But I would hope that you allow your staff to come back to you with things that we think is going to meet that requirement.
So just to follow up on that, I understand what you're saying. Like, we don't set the timeline to some extent because we have a drop dead due date. I get that part. I guess the problem is, as I see it, we're at least 5 to 7 months behind already due to the fact that it says right in this timeline that we set, it says winter of 22, summer.
I hate to interrupt. We've got a few other folks who want to speak. We've got a closed session item as well. And I think that, so point made, that you wish we
I
had further.
actually have an action item that I would suggest as for clarity to help us as a board have better understanding.
Right. So I think, so if you'd like to suggest that rather than relitigate the last few months and what we haven't done, the more forward-looking this conversation is, the more likely that we don't fall further behind.
Thank you, Chair Rivera. Really appreciate that, Vice Chair. Sorry. I guess if we took the timeline that we have and we revised it, it would just it would feel more transparent for us as the board, but then also for the residents in the county. I have a lot of people that say to me, well, have you met that timeline? And I'm like, well, no, not exactly. I'll ask these questions. So I'm trying to be responsive to the folks that live in my community that ask me questions. So could we get this revised, this timeline revised, so that we have a better understanding what our due dates are for certain things and making sure that we're actually meeting those metrics, so that we know that we have our leadership keeping us on track, because it's something that, I find to be very helpful.
Can I clarify that? So are you looking for a revision of the timeline or more detailed timeline?
Both, because I think we're too far behind if this is really what that time frame is.
Okay.
Because we're talking about through December, as you mentioned.
Mary Jo, we will get you a more refined timeline, but that's not going to change the facts of the due dates that we do not set. It gets set by the state and federal government. I think it's fair to mention, we were doing an amendment to the plan and doing the 2025 plan and keeping you informed every step of the way. And we will make sure the schedule allows you more time to debate. We will willing to schedule special board meetings as many times as you want. Literally, if you want to meet every day, we're all good with that. But I also want to caution you that if you give us direction, say, go and find this alternative, this doesn't mean that we can come the next day and give you an alternative. This has to be run through very complicated models. It has to be run through the criteria so we will revise the time, we'll make the timeline detail, but that's not going to change the end date.
No, I fully understand that, but I guess if we just have metrics of by this date, we have to have this decided, for the environmental, because we're not going to go out and, decide that we're going to go down the path of things that we know that we don't want to support. We have to have numbers, or we have to have actual things that we would support. And yes, I've been a frequent critic of the road user charge, both the conversion of lanes and then also the actual road user charge, the two different ones. And, it would be helpful to have what those alternatives could possibly be, so that, not at the end, but more before we actually do the environmental part, to have those options, which we were never really given last time. I know you weren't on the board at that time, Council President Elo Rivera, but for us that we were trying to say, well, I won't support this, and not to have an alternative, it was a real problem for many.
Understood. So I want to make sure we got Councilmember Shu, we've got Councilmember Gasterland, who are the next two up. I want to make sure that they have an opportunity, and anybody else as well from the board has a chance to weigh in.
Thank you. It sounds like we're going to do what I'm hoping that we will do.
I think sounds like staff's going to do their best to, right. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Shu.
Thank you. Thank you, President. I have a lot of concerns and a lot of questions, but I want to talk real fast. And please, if you can make my answers to my questions very quickly, so I don't overtake or take too much of my time. First of all, thank you for your presentation and giving us the minimum goalpost that CARB has given us of 19%. But I want to emphasize if we were in a classroom, that would be a D-. That's a D- if you just pass. And of course, not because I'm an agent, but I want to go for at least a B or maybe an A, right? So I'm going to ask a series of other questions. First of all, is there a penalty if you go better than 19%?
There's no penalty for going over 19%.
Thank you.
No.
If I do the math right, that original target was given to us by Governor Schwarzenegger's 80% reduction by 2050. But if I do my math right, 2035 would be halfway towards that 80% goal. Is that correct?
Your math is better than mine on the fly.
Yeah, I think that means a 40% reduction.
But I think,
yeah, that means a 40% reduction by 2035. And since I don't like to give this obligation of greenhouse gas reduction to my children or my grandchildren, I think, 19% is pretty bad. That we really should be going at 25% or 35%, which I think is doable, if not more. Furthermore, CARB gave us a new target line more recently. And I know that's not our current requirement, but I just want to reiterate this issue. Just November of last year, the carbon scoping plan gave us a 25% VMT reduction per capita by 2030 if we want carbon neutrality, which is a new language and a new goal that came to us in the last few years. Is that about right?
CARB adopted a new scoping plan last November. It has a recommendation of a 25% reduction in VMT by 2030. However, they have not said how or when and if that will be implemented as a requirement.
But as science goes on, do you think that might become a requirement for us in the near future? Something like that?
It will really be up to the state to determine that.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, and I want to move this quickly on. Do we have any health? One of the speakers talked about having a health reduction, health impact goal within our RTP. Is that something that this RTP currently requires?
We have performance measures related to health in the plan.
But actually, I know we report on the numbers, but do we actually try to have a target by a particular time?
We don't have a target.
Correct. And lastly, one of the speakers and many of us are worried about, who pays for what. And I'm wondering if sometime in the future we can get an idea of how much drivers pay for the cost of road maintenance and road development, unless you have that off the top of your head offhand. I've heard as low as 30% in the past and as much as maybe 50%, but definitely users haven't been paying for their road use. Is that pretty much your assessment? And we could get to the numbers later.
I've seen different research. I don't have a number off the top of my head, but we can bring that back at a later date.
All right. Now, just for curiosity, and my last point is going to be, have we had different users pay for different parts of the transportation system? And the example I would give is diesel fuel is pays a tax, but that funding goes to other sources of transportation. Is that correct? We could answer that. You could answer that later time. I don't want to monopolize any more time. So my understanding is diesel tax doesn't pay for diesel trucks to be necessarily on the road. They pay for other parts of the transportation system that we have. In other words, it's okay to move from one pot of money to another as long as it's overall looking at the transportation improvements.
The state really defines where those funds go to, and so they can go into various accounts that have different purposes and criteria.
Yeah, but not necessarily diesel trucks, even though it's a diesel tax.
That's my understanding.
That's what I want to make. Lastly, I want to say, a lot of what Loretta Jones points out is absolutely correct. We're behind. We're very much behind. But I'll leave you with one thought, or actually last series of questions. We should have a different kind of transportation that serves us, that costs us less, that is healthier for us. But there's this old kind of adage, and I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it came from a Chinese, but it is today. When's the best time to plant a tree? 30, 40 years ago. When the second best time to plant a tree? Today. So yes, we're behind, but we better start moving right now. And I think we should move with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Shu.
Just clarifying, Vice Chair, to Mayor Jones' comments. In terms of the schedule, we're not behind. We're actually on schedule to move the 2025 Regional Transportation Plan by the deadline stated to us by the state and federal government. So we're not behind. I would commit to you that it is a very complicated process that requires a lot of public outreach. And again, I'm going to put it back on you. If you feel that one meetings every 2 weeks is not going to get you that, let us schedule a special meeting. Staff is more than ready and able. And staff is more than ready and able to go to every community and have as many workshops, as many outreach program. You're going to see a budget next week or the next meeting, and we accounted for that. So we're ready to make sure that you are over-informed in this one, but we're not behind schedule. Just want to make sure we're clear. We're actually, even though we're doing the 2020 amendment and the 25, we're doing everything we need to do at this stage to prepare for the update.
Vice Chair, if I may, I should have clarified in my presentation. I know I was going very quickly, but Mayor Jones, what we have been working on over the last 9 months really is that data collection and model development component of the regional plan. We have to get that done very early because we use all of that data to do the forecast and to inform the development of the plan. So that's what we've been working on. So when it said winter was the start of the plan, we've been working on the plan. This is the first time that we've kind of come to you though with an update on the overall schedule.
All right. We'll now go to Councilmember Gasterland, followed by Mayor Vasquez.
Great, thank you. I'll try to be highly efficient as well in my comments. This is an excellent discussion though. Thank you, everybody. You know, I chair the Bioinformatics and Systems Biology graduate program at UCSD. And I think I've finally met a modeling problem that's harder than understanding the protein interactions in the cell. I mean, you have a modeling problem with more variables, constraints, parameters, and interactions than I think I've ever seen. And looking at these requirements and trying to figure out what is it that's really going on in this model, what's driving it, no pun intended, is the calculation of this 19% reduction in greenhouse gas production. So the 90% reduction in greenhouse gas production, I'm assuming that's by vehicles in our region. So that's my first question, percentage of that. Okay. So then I ask, you know, assume a spherical cow. So if every vehicle were electric, there would be no emissions from vehicles. And that would be if generating the electricity were carbon free, and if getting them from Asia to the port of San Diego to unload were carbon free, and if the port operations were carbon free, or carbon neutral would be the other way to say it. So I asked myself, you know, how is it that accomplishing our greenhouse gas goal via electric or hybrid vehicles isn't possible? So I don't expect you to answer that now, but I think that's a critical question for us as a board to understand so that we can really wrap our heads around the both ands. You know, we learned a lot about the both ands at the workshop, you know, do both what this person wants to do and what this other person wants, meet this requirement and meet that requirement. And I'd like to understand more about conflicting requirements, inconsistencies. I know they're in there. And sometimes when that happens, you wind up with a number that you simply cannot calculate. And sometimes the right thing to do is to step back and say, you know what? I mean, you have this amazing model. So look at the model and ask, are there parts of it that just don't work with each other? And I'll give an example. We're trying to do reduction of vehicle miles traveled in order to, as a proxy for reduction of greenhouse gas. Well, vehicle hours traveled might actually be even more important. I've talked with Mayor Vasquez about the problems in Lemon Grove and in Del Mar and what's the same and what's different. And one of the things that we recognized in our conversation that's the same is getting onto the highway. You know, the entrances and the exits, the traffic lights to get there, the traffic lights once you get off the highway, and so on. So idling, congestion, and traffic lights are part of this whole equation. So can we change the metrics that CARB is allowing us to use, or whoever it is that's, you know, giving us the functions for calculating 19%, where we get to 18.6%? And then I want to put out there.
Gaston, did you want them to answer that question, or
let me try?
Questions that I think are harder to answer today.
Well, that one might be answerable.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So it's not up to us to define the metrics.
I know.
And being you're a professor that knows about when you have so many variables you control for one, you have to consider which one to control for first, because you could control for another one and get a different result. Having said that, we're not in charge of the metric, but you brought up an important issue. If we all drove electric cars, what happened to the requirement that the state has? And so the state, people who are going to look at this plan is going to look at it this way. When are we going to have a complete conversion of the fleet? And a complete conversion fleet will not be probably in 2050. And second, Do we really have the grid system to handle it? And two, how do we generate electricity to power all these vehicles that we're driving, the millions of them? And what's the source of pollution for that? We don't control for that. The state is very clear right now. SB 375 said the greenhouse gas emission approximates vehicle mile travel. And when the state reviews the plan, they look for reducing vehicle mile travel. They're not going to accept by saying, well, we're all going to be driving electric car, therefore we took care of the greenhouse gas emission. I do agree with you that there is a time when the state of California probably need to look at different metrics to get to the goals that Councilmember Schultz outlined. But I also want to remind you, we're not the only, I mean, I know we're special in San Diego, but we're not the only one in the state that's required to do certain things. So since San Francisco and Los Angeles and Sacramento is doing things, the Air Resources Board is going to say, okay, San Diego is special, we're going to go with. Your staff is aware of all these considerations, knowing that we don't control the metrics, and knowing that we have to put a plan that not only meets the requirement from the number standpoint, but from the potential for implementing such a plan. And we're actually doing a good job showing that we can implement our plans.
And Councilmember Gaston, if you'd like to conclude your comments, and then we'll go to Mayor Vasquez, and then we got Councilmember Fisher on the lights as well.
Okay, great. So I just have a couple more comments slash questions. So I'd like to see us think about metrics for measuring so that we can prove to CARB that things are really working, or that something is working better than we actually assumed in the first place. And I'll give you an example. We have a great experiment that we could do. There are over 20,000 people working at UCSD on the campus, and that's not including the students and some of whom are student workers. So these are people coming to and from the campus either every day or several times a week. We now have a Midcoast trolley there. How many of the people working at UCSD live within walking or biking distance, or within, say, a 5 to 10 minute bus ride of a trolley station? And do they use the trolley? And if they don't, why not? And what will it take to incentivize them to do it? This is an experiment that's now eminently doable. And I'm sure that there are others in La Mesa and Chula Vista that we could do the same way and understand. Are people adopting these measures that we're doing in an RTP, presumably to reduce greenhouse gas, in a way that they really are? Or are they overperforming, as Councilmember Shu has wished for? And, let's understand it. We've got the models, so let's do it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilor Gasolin. Mayor Vasquez.
So we know that the regional plan is very important. And although Hassan has already stated it, I think it's important, and I believe you stated it too, that we reach out to our communities because the plan is really going to impact everyone in our respective communities and throughout the county of San Diego. So I'm a huge supporter of regional workshops and perhaps having a conversation, a listening session, so that we can hear from real people who use transportation options. And if that rolls forward, count me in, because I want to be there in the room to hear the conversations. And also, one thing that I would like to formally request is a presentation at my city council meeting about the regional plan, because I feel that it's very important for SANDAG to hear from people within my community. My city is a small city, and I consider it to be a bedroom community where people sleep there, perhaps shop there, but they travel to all parts of San Diego County to work. And my goal is to make sure that there are connections, but smart connections for the people who live in my community to use in an optimized way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Vasquez. All right, Councilmember Fisher.
Thanks, Vice Chair. We've heard a lot about having public outreach and doing all these workshops, and we could do hundreds of them. There's nothing worse than doing a workshop or asking people what they want to do and they're not doing it. We have seen and we've heard the residents of San Diego very loud talking about the road usage charge, how they didn't want it, and they're still talking, even though we've been assured it's not there. We have to educate the people of this region to understand that the funding that we receive is earmarked. You know, Hassan, you said something a few minutes ago, says, we get funding for a plan that meets requirements. Everything meets these requirements. I think some of these requirements are unachievable. I think they're unrealistic. We have people who sit up in lofty spaces who don't have a direct accountability to the residents of our neighborhoods, of our small towns, and sometimes even our larger towns. So, you know, as I was looking at the presentation, I came across the part that says circle of influence and legislative policies. And, you know, I would like to find out how, as an entity, how we can challenge some of these requirements as being unrealistic. And it's hard because I sit there and I think, if we start challenging the people who are funding, then we run the risk of losing the funding. They're going to go somebody who has the path of least resistance. But I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that whatever plans that we plan for, whatever plans that we execute and implement, that they meet the needs and the wants of those who live in this region. Now, we can go up and down the coast, inland to the coastal, and the needs are different. And I would never want to not have funding to do stuff, but I also want us to make sure that we do challenge the legislative processes, that we figure out a way that we can look at those people who are making the ABs, the SBs, and all these other things that challenge us on a daily basis, how we can go back to them and say, hey, you know, this is really nice and it's a lofty goal and I have nothing wrong with dreaming. I know SANDAG is based on big dreams, big money, but the reality is that there's always something that happens to individuals that maybe a side or something that was an indirect impact that wasn't considered by the people who sat on the high lofty areas. And then we expect the residents, especially the ones who are low income or disadvantaged, we expect them to kind of eat crumbs because we have these people who are expecting these requirements to be fulfilled. Now, again, I think that we do have to dream. I believe firmly that we should work together, that we should take in consideration our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, those who will come well after us. But I think that it would be good for us to take some time to figure out how we push back on some of these legislative policies that tie our hands, that also have negative impacts. And again, we're seeing it, you know, and I want to go out in the next, you know, couple of years and talk to our community. I want to find out what they want and explain to them how we're going to get there. The hard part is they don't understand half of what our board knows of how these funds are earmarked, and they have to be spent in specific directions. And, you know, SANDAG is working hard to make sure that those policies are in place. But we have to be sure that if we hear that we don't want some plans done, that we have to push back, that we have to be united, not just us as a region, but perhaps Los Angeles, San Francisco, some of the other regions are having the same issues. How do we band together with them and push back to the legislators who continue to sit there and push down great ideas, who on a politics level may make them look very successful, but the actual reality is it makes us unsuccessful as a region and, you know, as a community. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Councilmember Fisher. And I just confirmed with Hassan that they can provide a written update of our legislative work. I think our legislative agenda that we approved either the previous meeting or the meeting before that incorporated a lot of the concerns that folks have from the various entities who participate here at SANDAG. With, you know, the challenging some of the regulations that are being pushed down. And so it sounds like a written update can be provided. We will now go to Mayor Krantz.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation. I would like to share some thoughts that I have from the 2021 plan as the chair of NCTD and the process that we went through. I wouldn't want to have to give a grade for the collaboration that really didn't exist in the process of that planning. We had several opportunities to send letters to SANDAG raising issues. We got answers to some of the questions, but there were many others that didn't get answered. And because of the timeline that SANDAG was under, there really wasn't an opportunity to dig deeper on that and get some of those issues addressed, specifically with regard to rail. That was an area that I thought needed a lot of help. And the professional staff at NCTD also felt that way. When I look at the checklist for this 25 RTP, I see, to me, one of the most important areas of this process is the modal discussions that will take place. And at our city council, we talk often about mode shift because it's a critical part of meeting our climate action goals. And so when I see number one, does the RTP discuss intermodal and connectivity issues? As an MPO, our professional staff here at SANDAG needs to reach out to many other agencies in order to answer this question. Does the RTP include a discussion of highways? Caltrans needs to be pretty engaged in that. Does the RTP include a discussion of mass transportation? We have 2 transportation agencies that need to be consulted extensively that have invested significant resources in planning for mass transportation. Does the RTP include a discussion of the regional airport system? Well, then we need the airport authority to engage. Does the RTP include a discussion of regional pedestrian needs? Well, then we got to be talking with every city. So while it says this is a checklist, a yes or a no, I want to be sure that the discussion is robust. And frankly, I have no evidence that it will be. And I hope that Executive Director Ekrada will bring back a detailed plan for how the conversations will take place and will include our regional partners in this endeavor. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Krantz. I just wanted to, Councilmember Fisher, you mentioned something about how unacceptable it is to engage community and then write off their concerns. And I just wanted to share with you that my first time in this building was at a regional planning workshop. I believe it was the 2015 update that we were working on. 2016, sounds right. And I went back to my organization and said I didn't want to bring community members anymore because it felt like it was a farce. It felt like they were weighing in on decisions that had already been made. And so as someone who showed up here with community members to participate in the process and was deeply, deeply disappointed in what I'd seen, I just want you to know that I agree with that sentiment. I certainly don't want to be on a board that it leads an agency that leaves community feeling like that. And what I also agree that we just have to do a much better job of explaining the complexity here. And then as a board, the more time that we spend on what is within our circle of control, right? And recognizing that doesn't mean we can't influence other things, but in this space here, focusing on what we do control, I think it is more likely that we deliver on the things that the community wants and keep them focused on the task that we have here, that we have as a responsibility here at SANDAG. So thank you, Antoinette, for the presentation, Susan, Cindy for being here, Hassan as well. We'll go back to you really quick, and then we've got a closed session item to get to.
Thank you. I really do appreciate all the comments from you today, but I think to Councilmember Fisher's point, whether San Francisco or Los Angeles or Sacramento in the same place where you are, and the answer is no. As a matter of fact, San Francisco think SB 375 is not aggressive enough. Los Angeles, I mean, I was in Los Angeles and doing this for a living, and they didn't think it was aggressive enough. So unfortunately, I wish they are in the same place. It will be easier to go and advocate. To the Vice Chair's Elio Rivera's point and some of the other points raised, I think it would be really bad to have public outreach and listen to the community and end up ignoring them. But we have an obligation to tell the community to what rules are we operating under. I think we heard from the community, they don't want road user charge. Perfect. Road user charge is going to be out 2021 plan. Chair Vargas vice chair and the second vice chair made public statement, directed the staff not to make road user charge part of the 2025 plan. Done. But at the end of the day, we have to come up with a plan that meets the requirements. And maybe it won't be road user charge. We hear the community. But to the vice chair's point, you as leaders don't want to have community input and listen to it and ignore it. You have an obligation to explain that some of their requests might not be there because of the existing requirement. And that's on all of us. So I would look forward to working with all of you again. It's not to have more meetings, but to make sure we understand the rules we're operating under.
Thank you, Hassan. All right, let's move to our closed session item. Tessa, do we have any public comment on item 11? All right, let's hear
yes.
public comment on the item.
On item 11 for closed session.
Yes.
I do have one in person. Alan C., please come to the podium.
Yes, thank you for putting that in last minute. I just want to point out, as I said last week, all closed sessions, yes, you don't want interruptions during closed sessions, but again, it's our tax money. There should be a video feed so the public can observe. And then lastly, if you may indulge me, I do thank the board, the dialogue, because it's so important. Represent your people. Thank you. Thank you, people who spoke up. Thank you so much, SANDAG.
I would also like to make sure I do have two hands raised, and I want to make sure that the virtual public understand this is public comment for number 11, the closed session item. And so I have two public commenters on this item. The first is Blair Beekman. Please go ahead.
Hi, Blair Beekman. I'm not clear that isn't there supposed to be time at the end of the meeting for public comment as well? Open public comment?
This is the time for public comment on item number 11 only, please.
Well, you described that there could be public comment, open public comment at the end of the meeting.
Mr. Beekman, we're not at the end of the meeting yet. We go into closed session and then we come back out.
Totally understood. Thank you for the clarification. To quickly conclude, good luck in the meeting and good luck that it's nice that San Diego practices. They offer a lot of words to describe to the public their closed sessions. Thank you for doing that. It's a good process to do that. Thank you.
Our final speaker is phone number 731. Please go ahead.
This is true. Notice they say corridors in the region rather than cities in the county. I imagine no justice in this litigation, just like no justice in regional governance. So for this case, Thomas Neal versus Sandag, what I found was that the case is about wrongful termination. Isn't that interesting? That reminds me of disgraced narcissist Nathan Fletcher and his little brother minion, Sean, and all the complicit wrongdoings that have been going on at MTS. Tommy Neal was an associate graphic designer at Sandag for 34 years. Sandag can't even please a graphic designer. The SC Ford website even removed the 2019 Federal Regional Transportation Plan document that had his name on it. How about that? So I'll be fighting a good fight and talking to Nora again next week as usual, being the all-star that I am, Sean. As far as cases, I participated in a meeting every day this week because the wicked never sleep and us wannabe superheroes are not allowed to rest. And as someone with Asian family, your grade is a D- at best. Sorry to
Thank you. Your time has expired, and that concludes the public comments on the closed session item.
All right. With that, we will ask that everyone who is not required to be in this closed session exit the room, and then we will discuss item 11 as soon as possible.
Back on.
All right. Thank you. We will first check in with General Counsel. Mr. Kirk, do we have any reportable actions on item 11?
On item 11, the board was briefed on the reference litigation. There's no reportable action.
All right. Thank you, sir. Do we have any final non-agenda public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We do have two final non-agenda public comments. The first is Blair Beekman. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. I just wanted to try to quickly comment that a real good luck in considering the concepts of mixed income housing for the future of your housing concerns overall, and good luck on law enforcement issues that we really can. We have tools available that are already addressing law enforcement things. We don't need to double and triple crime statistics that are already starting to drop, possibly. We don't need to double and triple our technology things, possibly. Things to consider, and to finally consider, with all that said, we made a big push towards new law enforcement, a world of law enforcement, and it's good for the community. But that's not panning out right now with the SJPOA things and fentanyl issues they're going through. I think we really have to reconsider the concepts of reimagine and the balance process that we need to talk about policing. We also need to talk about community and their needs, and the fact of less policing actually can work. We can make it work.
Your time expired. I do have two remaining public commenters whose hands were raised prior to close on this item. Paul Hinkin, you will be followed by the final speaker on this item, phone number 731. Paul, please go ahead.
Hi. Excuse me. I went on to the SANDAG website the other day. It had a privacy statement for me to agree to, like a private agency, which it isn't. I do not trust it further than I can spit, if even that far, so I read it. Two of the paragraphs were really disturbing. It was giving SANDAG permission to use the data from the highway license plate readers and street cameras, which are supposedly only on police cars, not for drivers who are doing nothing wrong. Nora, thank you for acknowledging us as friends. This is another abuse you need to correct. Public agencies should not need a private statement and should not be making permission to invade one's privacy a precondition to accessing their websites. And a 1 minute speaking time is way too short. Thank you, Mayor Melendez, for echoing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker will be phone number 731. Please go ahead.
All right, it's truth. And for the record, every board member gets $150 just for showing up to this meeting. I want to second Alan C's idea of closed sessions having live video streams for public viewing. And I also wish that every elected or selected public servant would admit that they just want more money. Like Catherine Rhodes said she liked about Hassan because he brings money. I love that that's the only positive I've ever heard about Hassan. And Rebecca, I listened to a KUSI interview with you, and I couldn't agree more about getting rid of public servants who don't even read what they vote on. That's 99.9% of them. And you're right, people need to wake up and get informed. And let me add, get active. Quit whining and get involved. To keep fighting and pushing back no matter what, Jack Fisher. But I'm ready to implement Joe LaCava's April 24th idea of the elimination of SANDAG. He didn't mean that Freudian slip, but when I say it, it's not a slip. I'm ready to eliminate debt, corruption, and totalitarianism with the elimination of SANDAG. Fast and repent like it's Ramadan. Go ahead. Starve the government, as the saying goes.
Thank you. Your time expired. That concludes the non-agenda public comments.
All right, thank you. With that concludes our meeting, and our next board meeting is on
Chair.
May.
Vice Chair, sorry, I pushed my button. I had a question. So there is no time or agenda item for us to speak, which I'm not sure what that is. It's not on this agenda.
Well, yeah, I'll talk to the chair about that. We'll see if
We're
that
not
can be added.
eliminating it, are we? So that we
As
can.
far as I understand.
And who prepares the agenda? Is that our chair?
All right, so we're going to conclude the meeting because I know.
Wow.
Yeah, we're going to conclude the meeting. Our next board meeting is on May 12th at 10 a.m. I'm sure Chair Vargas would be more than happy to answer that question one-on-one. She's our chair and works with staff on the agenda. Thank you.
That's a big problem, Vice Chair.